If you're watching this is the behind the scenes of writing Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin. We're not sure when we're going to release this, if we're going to release it, whatever, but we're going to record ourselves just gut level talking. So we're going to start ignoring the camera and talking to each other. But I think we should probably start with the Tabtarian toast just for good luck, right?
Oh, man, yeah. I'm behind on my stuff.
Yeah, man. So
may you mend the first break.
May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake.
Cilantro. You're in the cult now.
You are.
Man, that is so good.
I know. This watermelon rockstar.
Unfair good. Oh. Ooh, it's cold.
That's how you wrote Dead Man's Guide, Tim. You kissed a can of soda.
That's the behind the scenes.
Soda. That's what we do.
Soda.
We get our.
Actually, can we just derail everything we were going to do and debate why you think that energy drinks aren't soda? Because I don't know where I stand on it, but suddenly I feel divided.
You know, they fit. Listen, they fit the bill.
Well, it depends on what the bill is.
You know what I have to do now. The thing that we both have to do is look up the Wikipedia article for soda.
We don't have to.
Okay, we won't.
I agree that we want to, but that's okay. Okay,
so for Dead Man's Guide, there are a lot of things that we've talked about, and so I think that's part of the process is figuring out, like, I don't know, you just got to talk it out, and things change a lot, but you have to get ideas out there, you know.
That's the problem with a published book, is that's usually when it stops changing. And that's not easy for us.
Right. No.
We have to finally nail something down.
I know it. And so, and the major reason we need to figure this out is because of, we're going to kickstart this book, and it has to have specifics. Like, we need this art. We need this. We need,
yeah, exactly. So whereas we've changed things midstream before because people don't know what's supposed to be in it or what we expect, to be in it. That we've changed things completely. Whereas now it's like, well, no, when there's a Kickstarter, we want to be able to say, hey, these are the things that are in it.
Yep.
And that's what it's going to be. There's no changing that.
And I want it to be a very different kind of book. It can't be so different that people won't back it.
Yeah.
But I think
it's written in a dead language.
Oh, see, stuff, boo. It's a Necronomicon. Well, but the thing that I also know too is claims of originality can get you stabbed real hard in the neck on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
If you're too careful. So internally, I'll say that I'm looking for something that the biggest thing I've noticed is that campaign guides they're novels that are like textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And you hand somebody the book and you say, learn my campaign world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I want it to be use our campaign world to make it your own.
Yeah, exactly. And
there has to be a middle ground between telling them all of the stuff we want and giving them the tools to say, here's the box.
Yeah.
Fill it in with whatever you want. Here's the template of how a Dragongrin desert works. Here are the cool things that make it different. Here are some things you can customize within this framework.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people are going to customize it anyway. That's what a campaign world is.
That's the point. Yeah, no matter what. I mean, even if I did decide to run something in a different place, different setting. Hell, if I decide to run something in Dragongrin, I'm going to change it. Even if I'm like, I know in the real world, in the real Dragongrin, this is what it is, but I'm just going to do this instead because
exactly
I like that more.
I almost wanted to do breakout boxes throughout, and it's a certain style, whatever we decide the style is, and the heading or the symbol is your Dragongrin, and it's specific to say, like, here's how this is. Here are some ideas to make it your Dragongrin. Yeah, giving people not just a nudge, but saying this book is designed for you to make your own campaign world with this framework.
Exactly, and for you to decide what you want yours to be, even if it's not Dragongrin.
Right.
Especially if it's not Dragongrin. Come in here and grab a deity if you need an extra one.
Exactly.
To be an old dead god, that people don't know about. You've already got a set of, you've got your pantheon, but you need this other one. So, okay, we'll look in maybe there's a deity section. You need a place. You need a town or a region, and you just want some of the higher level specifics.
Right.
You could be running it in Dragongrin, name and all, named stuff, cool things in there. Or you could just say, well, I like the name, or I don't like the name, but I like, you know, that the population, where it's
Yeah.
located, that it's, you know, bordered on one side by mountains. That's the part I want.
That's where I need it. I'm running sewers under Sandwall, and I need a coastal city
Exactly.
to plug that into. And so to me, the tightrope you're walking is that if you're selling a campaign setting, it has to have enough in there that is what we want it to be, or else people are like, this isn't a campaign setting.
You have to be able to run a campaign in Dragongrin
Right.
with it.
I have to be able to
Without
turn.
doing all the work.
Right. I have to be able to turn to a region and it's clear cut. These
I
are
don't
the
know.
things that
What do
exist.
you think a War Maker looks like?
Okay, so you opened up a big can of worms right there, and I'll just jump right in. The big bad in our world is called the Dismembered Lord. And I posted an image of a Dark Lord in armor, and I was like, hey, this is kind of what I was thinking. I don't want to cop out and not say what he looks like, but I did come up with a way to cop out and not say what he looks like. All right, if the book itself is a tome that's like meta, there's meta stuff in there, but it's a book that you're going to look through, and it's supposed to make you feel like you're in Dragongrin. Because I think the Dismembered Lord needs his own section in the Wonders section. Like if we have like the Bleak, the Dismembered Lord, and Lightfall probably be lumped in.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't think so, but
So the Dismembered Lord, Lightfall. So I think it would be cool if in the Dismembered Lord section, and I just thought of this on the way over here driving here. Excuse my burp. It's going to be plenty of that.
there's going to be a lot of that.
I would love it if a rendering of what Samus Prostimus III claims the Dismembered Lord looked like at the Battle of Blah. And it's this like wizard with an orb. And then the other one is, two witnesses swear that da-da-da-da, and it's a dude with this big sword. And it's like, essentially, you never commit to which one it is, but all of them are people saying, this is what I swear he looked like.
Yeah, and I really like that idea, but
People will be mad.
no, I said but I didn't mean but. I guess what I mean is like, I love that idea. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that some people might be mad, but in the same respect, to me, it doesn't make sense because.
Well, can I mention one thing? I think it's important to note that they would all look like the same design change.
Yeah, no.
It wouldn't be
at,
drastically different. It'd be like have you ever seen Medieval Iron Man, those artists that have painted the Avengers? And you're like, oh, I can see that's the Hulk.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is I could see how some people might be upset about that. Whether I would even say they could be completely different. I mean, one of them could be a woman in my mind. Like that's what this person swears they saw. Maybe they're crazy.
And I think that that's kind of cool, but is that a cop-out?
I don't think it's a cop-out because consider what you're copping out of. Okay, people want to know what you think it is, right? Well, it's not. That's not how it works. It's not. Yes, we could say this is what it is, but that's not how stuff works. We recently did a video about, well, it's depends on what people believe and what they see and what they say. And I could say, no, this is the Dismembered Lord. His real name is John Smith, and he lives at 228 Oak Lane in Dragongrin. Does that make your story richer because I told you his actual information, his actual age?
So,
or does it make your mind come up with another cool reason?
Right.
By saying, no, he could look like this, he could look like that, he could be a decoy, he could be a woman, he could be a construct. Who knows?
No, and I love that. So here, okay, so what if you take that exact thing you mentioned and use it in conjunction? So what if there is still a solid story? In other words, okay, so great fiction. Some authors purposefully don't describe their main character.
Exactly. Or in general, a lot of things. Right.
Like you leave enough to the imagination. So what if the story could be more specific?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm of the ilk where I'm like, look, I think people need to know this guy's story. I think it should be specific.
And that makes sense.
With anchor points that are like, most are sure this is the way it was.
And I think, but I guess the important thing is I agree with you, but I feel like that is entirely different from just the way he looks. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah,
that's my point, is where it's like the story is the story.
Yeah, we're not saying, well,
but then
we're not saying you need to make up
like?
everything about the Dismembered Lord. We're not like, listen, that's what we call him, and you got to write your own damn story.
Like, I think it would be cool if his actual name is in there. The things like, this is what at least many believe happens.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like,
no, I agree with that.
You know, I'm going to impersonate Barker impersonating Dan Carlin.
Well, if you want to impersonate somebody impersonating Dan Carlin, you should impersonate Matt impersonating Dan Carlin.
Well, I just remember Barker's quote, and I don't know if it's real.
Okay.
He's like, history is all speculative because you're in the weeds and you're, I don't know. Basically,
you don't remember the quote.
Not at all. Nah. But he basically said history is all speculative because you could get lost in the weeds trying to figure out where to start, and it's all about what pinpoint you start at,
what to
what
talk
you're
about,
looking
what to
at.
decide
right.
to do. Yeah.
And to me, there has to be enough real stuff in the book. It's not going to be a book full of what ifs.
Yeah,
Dragongrin would have no identity.
And, yeah, exactly.
If everyone's like, well,
it's just not going to be as
selling?
Specific. Yeah, it's just not going to be as specific as an Eberron book where they're like, listen, you could go to any crevice of any map, and I'm like, this is what's
Here's
there.
Duke so-and-so. He's this old. He's this level. He's this class. So, like, for me, the Dismembered Lord would be something like, you know, his name is blah, and of course I think it should be cool narrative, you know, whatever, but
yeah, like not his name is blah. I think
I think it should be
blah is like just a bad, I think not a great fantasy name at all.
Blaze. Barry Blaze.
Blaze 420 is his full name.
It's
he lives at 360 No Scope Lane.
No, but dude, it's gotta be lowercase x, uppercase x, lowercase x. Blaze
420.
Yeah, because it was all taken in the Dragongrin Discord server. So
all the good nicknames.
So it'll say like, this person, you know, did these deeds, rose to power, and then there are anchor points. So the anchor point is, it's generally this person. It was in this area. These events happened. He's, you know, taking credit for that. But then there are also points in there where it's like, he rose to power. Many believe that it was through this and this when this happened, but some posit that behind the scenes he was also doing this.
Yeah.
So there are Tabtarian triangles every once in a while so that you can decide which one of those inspires you.
Well, and you can use those in general to sort of decide what your story is. Not even necessarily like, it's not quite a roll table of which one do you want it to be. It's more like, no, people don't really know. You as the GM can decide what you want it to be.
Exactly.
And here are 3 cool ones. But in the same way, like, you know, if I ran it this week versus next week, I would choose this one or that one. And it would just barely influence whatever is happening.
Exactly. And that's the key. They're not huge. It's small things that would have sort of dominoed a slightly different way.
Exactly.
Because that's real life. If you ask, well, how did Hitler rise to power so quickly? Historians will say, well, no, you can trace it back to this. And if you start here, and well, many say it was, you know, Crystal Knocked. And it's like, well,
it was part of it.
Yeah.
Way to go, buddy.
Sorry. But the point is that many things.
Yeah.
Or if I said, how did Hitler lose World War II?
Yeah. It's not just like one thing. It's like, well, if this had, you know, we don't really know if this one thing had been different or if these 2 things were, man, if only this one thing had turned the tide. It's like, it's kind of like if you play sports, you didn't lose because they scored the last goal against you.
Right.
It's like, well, no, it was a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, if you scored more and they scored less, that would be better. But it's like, no, every single decision that was made led to them scoring the last goal.
And it was.
So if you could, it's hard to pinpoint you, man. If I, you know, if the goalie just blocked that, we could have won.
Right. It's like,
no, well, yeah, that's
we all
true,
got here together.
Yeah. Why was there a shooter in front of the goalie? Why was the goalie not in position? Why was, you know, I'm like,
there's a lot.
And, you know, put that on the scale of a world. Suddenly you're like, yeah, countless things between what's happening.
So if we're specific about that, I think it would be cool. And I would like to do a good number. I think like 4 different, distinctly unique renderings of the Dismembered Lord would probably be where I'd land.
Yeah.
And we can figure out what those look like, but just to where it's like, oh yeah, it's dialing it up from like melee plated Dark Lord all the way up to frail old wizard and everything in between kind of.
Yeah, no,
stuff.
for sure.
But so this kind of goes off to a different, this is a rabbit trail leading to how the sections would be filled in. Are we for sure making this a 5th edition book, or is this book going to be system agnostic?
Well, what would making it a 5th edition book entail? Because based on what we've talked about, it won't have that many mechanics.
No, but that's what I was going to say, is it would also be super cool if, similarly to how some of the like kobolds, Tome of Beasts, it's like, well, I guess the only creature they do this with is a dragon, but I was imagining the Dismembered Lord. It would be cool if he had a stat block.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say the only thing that we would not do if it were system agnostic is stat blocks. And I feel like everything about it is system agnostic enough that you just make it 5th edition stat blocks and use 5th edition terms so that you don't have to omit things because you're trying to avoid a system.
Gotcha. And if you're that makes sense.
But because it's a setting guide, it's like, well, yeah, but 90% of it is going to just be words that have they're going to be system agnostic.
And inspiration and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So, okay, cool. Because what I was going to say is I'd like to treat him the way that they treat a dragon, meaning I think it would be cool if he has different power levels. Yeah. So you'd stat out a young dragon up to like a crazy Dismembered Lord, adult, ancient. But for the Dismembered Lord, it's him at all these different power levels or forms. Now, you wouldn't match them to the images, but I think that it would be cool if his different forms focused on different things. They were very close. But for instance, it would be cool if there was like a younger, more impetuous, like angry Dismembered Lord who was a melee fighter. So his stat block is much more that. But then the next one is that plus spell casting, and then by the end it's like a legendary ancient dragon with lair actions and stuff like that.
So
does that make sense?
It does, but I don't really like it because I think it creates an odd situation where, when was he the impetuous Dismembered Lord? He wasn't the Dismembered Lord, right? Because then that would imply that he was the Dismembered Lord or this evil lord at whatever age that was.
Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't have to be that he was young. I was saying the word young because that's the dragon type. But I mean, when he first got the power that he got.
But I guess what I mean is, in my mind, I'm like, I don't see the benefit of having 3 stat blocks unless you want them to be able to.
Because to me, the information is so like, hey, this could be anything. To have 1 stat block, you're sort of pigeonholing yourself of like, make whatever lore you want, but this is the Dismembered Lord stat block.
Well, yeah. So in that case, I would do a stat block for each image. When one of them is a wizard, basically, I don't think it makes sense to say like, well, when he was this, this, and then he studied. I'm like, I think it would fit the style of the book more if you wanted to do multiple ones.
I was thinking,
rather than like, well, here's rookie and here's.
I was going to say I would go like HeroClix on it.
That's what I mean.
You're saying don't do that.
I say don't do that because all of them are going to be really strong. There's no reason I think that a party should be fighting the rookie Dismembered Lord.
Okay, like, so then maybe I need to say it better. No, you're right. So then
that's what I mean.
Never easy to
styles.
Beat.
Yeah, like, rather than a lower level,
rather than
medium
lower,
level, high
so
level,
then
just like
fighter. Yeah, like plated Dismembered Lord, crazy, but still has legendary and lair actions.
Yeah.
Wizard, and then.
Because I think it would be up to people to decide what their impetuous just came into power Dismembered Lord is like.
And you could always use any stat block for any of them.
And you can write about the different levels, but I don't think that stat blocks for what we're going for is quite worth it. Using that much space. Right. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, well, we're trying to inspire.
No, I think that's actually a really good idea. So if assuming we had 4 images, let's say, because I don't want to be like, okay, we got to think of a 4th one. Like you don't want to come into that. But I think we could come up with, because I'm thinking the 4 major, as weird as this sounds, because I think you should span, if we're going to go that far, it's like rogue, cleric, wizard, fighder.
I was thinking more like rogue, cleric, wizard, cyberpunk. Like just go right out.
I'm down with that.
Neon
but like
tubes.
Yeah.
Like he's
just like exhausts coming out of his face.
Chromed out. He is the Motorhead logo.
Yep. from Brutal Legend, that huge dog that comes to life.
No, but sorry, you really said rogue.
Well, the
wizard.
4 major classes that were kind of around in original D&D, where it's like thief, so like assassin-y, like shadow lord, so thief, cleric, which dark cleric I think would be cool, wizard, or just caster, basically, not literally a wizard, but like mage, rogue, fighter.
Yeah, I think
cleric.
that you should not do it with classes. Like, as far as what you're explaining,
But
I see what you're saying.
Archetype. I'm saying, like,
but I'm like, but you had it with shadowy assassin, castery one,
full plate, and then with full plate weapon. Melee, like,
and then that's the thing. I feel like cleric doesn't fit there.
But I think it'd be cool if he was. The reason why I say cleric, don't think good cleric. Think he is. No, I guess what I mean basically his.
If we're doing 4 different images, I feel like cleric is just the full plate one, but with spells. You know what I mean? What is the image? What is?
But that's kind of the image? I would say that he'd probably be more okay. That I haven't thought it through.
That's what I mean. Is I'm thinking more images rather than stat blocks, because that is what would be that's what sort of excites me the most. Is I can imagine a really cool, kind of cool assassin one. That's probably the least interesting to me.
Right.
But then like a really cool caster one and a really cool full plate one, and I'm like, well, not to say he couldn't be a cleric, but I feel like we would need to come up with a really different way to portray.
Okay, so what if
not a fighter with
plate? So what if you wrapped it into, it's not necessarily cleric, but it's primordial bleak. So mix up healer,
but
priest,
I guess
with druid.
Again, it's all about how does that translate?
Right. So natural, bestial, go more druid than plate, because technically the druids are divine magic. I mean, in a lot of settings.
Well, yeah, but like. Okay.
So do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I understand. I just don't like it.
I know, but I think it should all be represented. No, I think you should give people a variety of things, because I could get down with that. You don't. Or do you want to just stick to, okay, he's either a shadowy assassin, he's either a fighter, or a mage.
I say that's good enough for now.
Because to
I feel
me,
like it'll certainly change. But
well, and I get that. To me, the reason why I wanted to throw cleric in there is because I'm saying that the main difference would be his armor would look totally different. It would be ornate. It would have emblems. He would have a holy symbol or things like that. Like, I think.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was
could
just
be
like
very different. And the other thing too is that
we could also do 4 really different fighters. Like, I mean, that's...
Sure, and that's fair. I guess what I mean to say is that one of them is very religiously themed.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So
like I said, it's just a matter of
I
was trying to think of like a completely different one.
Well, the thing that's really cool is like on Pinterest or DeviantArt, you go through and you look at things that wouldn't look like a clerik but could pass for one, and then go, okay, boom, and then contact that artist and go, hey, can you draw me a...
But again, okay, I like the idea of having 4 different ones. Right. That makes sense.
And we don't have to decide on what they are, but it made sense that there's a lot of talk of people are like, yeah, he would have his own religion, right? He's a god king, right? And I think that would sort of be on that edge of things.
Well, and based on decisions we've made in the past, that's kind of what we said.
Right.
We have changed that since.
Sure. But he doesn't have to look like guy with plate with just a holy symbol. Actually, that would cost us a lot less on art. Hey, can you just add...
I'll just draw it on there.
Okay.
In crayon?
With your surface?
With my surface, my crayon surface. So yeah, okay. So, but we should decide what the sections are going to be.
Which one? What are you talking about?
Of the book. That's one of the biggest.
Oh, we're jumping into that now?
Well, yeah, because that's like the thing we need to do.
All right.
Before we start writing.
Let me see here.
There's like the number one thing. So I think you have a doc for that, don't you?
I do have a doc.
A doctor. Yeah, doc.
He's the one they call Doc Samson. Well, let's talk about this first.
Doc Samson would definitely be in Dragongrin.
He would.
But just as a regular doctor.
So, like, to me, just hey, how's it going? I'm Dr. Samson.
Leo Spaceman. Sorry, go ahead.
So, okay. There are 3 different portions, like 3 major sections of the book in my mind. And so I was kind of thinking we should just talk about those overarching big ones. And then from there, decide the order.
Yeah, that's the thing. Order is going to probably come last.
I mean, like the order of
order is going to come
main
after
section.
Right. Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So my first thought was, the first section is okay. There's the world of Dragongrin, and I don't know if you want to just call it like the mundane world, but it's not the wondrous, crazy stuff. It's like, how does magic work? How do you travel? What's the basic calendar? It's the world stuff that if people want to use that stuff, it's fleshed out enough that
That's where the regions would be?
No.
I don't think this is a good section.
Why? This is important.
What are the other 2 sections?
The other 2 sections would be
Wonders,
which is like Typhons and the Dismembered Lord and Lightfall and all that stuff. And then the 3rd section is the regions.
So what else goes in this first section?
Well, it doesn't have to be a long one, but
I know, but I'm just like,
here's why.
I feel like we had 3 different sections and we're just missing something big here.
We are?
Yeah, because we had 3 sections before, and I don't remember it now. It's been a while. That may very well have been it.
Okay, well, hold on.
But I feel like that kind of stuff would be in the regions.
Okay, no, so well, that's the thing.
And then like magic stuff would be in like the magic. You know, there can be a summary at the beginning of some of the most important things. But I'm like, I feel like that would be like
tables
could go on.
Madness, mad bro.
It's also just an oldish table, so I'm like, well, it didn't creak before, but
isn't this the newer one? No. Yes.
Well, yeah, but we've used it for how many weeks in a row? It's the newer one. But I'm like, it's gonna not be greased anymore.
All right. So here's what's up. Go into this.
Man, you just kill me with that.
I know, but I have a system. No, it gets
system
better.
Of question marks.
It gets better. Oh, no. That's because it doesn't have numbers. None of them have numbers.
I'm aware, but
okay. Like in the drive, you know how we number our books? These just don't have numbers. Okay.
Yeah, no, but now you couldn't find them if you wanted. You know, doesn't.
Well, I just look at the. Yeah. So anyway, here. So here, hold on. All right. So life is what I was calling it. So the life, like magic and Dragongrin, cosmology of Dragongrin, deities and religion, dominant culture, quick calendar, traveling in Dragongrin, not like every region.
Yeah, no, I got you.
But like,
just like,
okay, for instance,
we're not missing something, I guess is what I'm saying. You're confident we're not missing
money,
something.
trade, and commerce. And then that's the life section. I'm not confident we're not missing something. Now,
because we had 3 sections before and it wasn't that.
Did we?
I thought there's not. Go to brainstorm.
Oh, maybe you're right. That's not the original brainstorm. Hold on.
That was an empty doc for those listening at home. He opened a doc called brainstorm and it just said brainstorm at the top.
So that
I'm like, oh man, we got to write a lot more than I thought, man. Holy cow. Oopsie.
Oh, whoopsie daisy.
That was an oopsie.
So let's see. Oh, I numbered it. That's why it's way down here.
Oh, it's in order, you mean? Sorry.
Shut up. Those are the wonders.
Well, and I guess that makes sense. That's it. That's the world, because I guess that's important stuff.
Yeah. So the way that it's laid out now,
basic world stuff, wonders and regions. Okay.
Yeah, and so in the life section, that would also be the people.
No, that's what I mean.
So
that makes sense.
Unless character creation is its own little section, it's like section 3.1.
Or what do you mean character creation?
Well, I mean, okay, so hold on, let me get back to that.
You gotta go back to
my awful
wherever you hit it.
Okay. So this isn't how I think it should be now.
But this is how it was.
Oh no, I lied. I think maybe this is how. Okay, so you start off with the basics of the world. Like, hey, here's the world. Maybe the primers in there.
Well, again, we're not going to worry about order.
Okay, all right.
But
so anyway,
that is the thing that exists. Character creation.
Then character creation. What I mean by character creation, I mean like I think so. Like I wanted to make this thing where it's like a guide to choosing a region, race, or class, and it's super short.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you know, what is your lineage? Well, I've never had money, and I come from a far off land full of muck. It's like, oh, okay, you're a half orc. You know, it's like it's a quick questionnaire, very short, leading you to what you would have in the world. Like, okay, for instance, you know, in the player's handbook where it says a barbarian is a blah, 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 blah. It's that short. There's a table at the beginning of the classes.
Oh, yeah. That
it's
one.
Very short. That. But for
races.
For races, classes, and what region you might be from. So, for instance, if a brand new player to the game is looking at it, it's like our videos we've been doing, where it's like, if you want to be someone who's more of a wanderer who focuses on rage,
and you're a barbarian.
Well, as simple as that sounds, but then it says barbarians typically live in blah blah or blah.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically a quick questionnaire
to
get you started. Anyway, then the races of Dragongrin. So it's like, hey, here go the races that are here, like our Drogus dwarves and the different whatever. If we're gonna are we gonna include backgrounds? We wanted to do that, right?
Well, it depends on everything else we're including, I would say. Because you also have one called races and one called classes.
But it's not actual classes, and it's not actual, well, it wouldn't be actual classes. It would just be, the thing I have for classes is bullet points of how they can be reskinned. So like the Jahar Barbarian. So like, it's like, here are a couple of quick things. So it's like, use the class Barbarian and you can play that as this or that. It's just inspiration. This doesn't even have to be a section. This could be a breakout box. But it's
and then races are we have a few races.
So the races, we have quite a few at this point.
I mean,
so it depends
published.
If we're going to put in there, which I think people are expecting, especially if it's going to be a 5e book. Here are the races. This is the Uldane dwarves, and this is the Grimdal dwarves, and and we can cut or add to this. This is just all of the ones that we've talked about in every damage reduction, like forever. So the races section would be similar to an Eberron, or it's like.
So I think that was the 3 sections. I think originally we've expanded the character section, the player section, to include life.
Oh,
that's what it was.
Okay. Yes. You know what it was? The regions and life were together.
Yeah. So that makes sense. That's why I was like, we're missing something, and that's why this section is in that section.
So to me, it's a quick. I think life should be first. Again, order.
Yeah. Again, no. Yeah, we won't worry about the order as much.
Life,
but I agree. I guess what I'm saying,
character creation.
That's what we were missing. That was where I was confused. So that's fair. Yeah.
And then after that, and these are the life stuff. Like I said, magic and Dragongrin, life.
Yeah, all that stuff makes sense. I'm like,
cool little. Inspiration heavy. It's not going to be like a wall of text, whatever. So that's the start of it. And then we go through the regions.
Yeah.
And then each of the regions, which I think we should go over that last, because there's a big old template and I really want to dig through that with you and have you pick it apart. So each of the regions, which we might have to combine some of these, because right now there's quite a few. But I'm okay with that because the region template should be relatively easy to fill out. And they're all supposed to be representative of different feels and tones within Dragongrin.
Yeah.
So any that it's like, this feels tacked on, we cut it. Like, that's just how it goes. Or combine, stuff. And then this is not each a section. They're just separated. So this would be in, there's denizens, which is factions, monsters, cultural relations.
Yeah, but...
Do we want to have that kind of stuff, or do you want to just put that?
I'd love to have that kind of stuff, but at this point, we are already at 200 pages, and we haven't even gotten to. You're only scrolled halfway through this.
So maybe the factions, the monsters, and cultural relations; those seem like the kind of things that would go into the regions. Very shorthand.
Well, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what do you mean monsters? Are we coming up
not
with
stat blocks? Just no.
Because if you come up with monsters, you have to have stat blocks.
Well, then no. So then monster shouldn't be in this book.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I feel like that's a book or a part of a book on its own, but I'm like, that's
so
the
like
whole thing.
Monsters of Dragongrin, which I know people have said they wanted, but then we need to omit monsters, except for
like
in
stuff,
the region you say like orcs are here. This is
things that exist. You can say
but
these,
not custom monsters.
Not saying not like, hey, listen, we have a little bestiary in here with 10 brand new monsters and 10 brand new stat blocks.
To me, even if we got Kickstarter stretch goals to do that, is it weird? I think it's weird to only have 10.
Well, that's what I mean. We would have to really severely cut it back.
Which doesn't make sense. It makes sense to say, okay, let's do another book.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then let me just double click in here and make sure there's nothing in here that's important. Nah, these are just
some notes. So the important thing is
I'll just move it into the working folder.
Instead, you should make
XX
as well as
ZZ.
No, we should have a doc of what we're talking about. You should open a doc that says, these are the things that are going to be in there. Don't forget, monsters doesn't belong in there.
Well, that's why I have a video. No, I won't watch this again ever. And then we'll forget.
So it's up to you. I guess what I'm saying is no.
People say, you guys said this.
I will remember. And you'll say, no, we were doing monsters. And I'll be like, Tim.
So that's why I'm saying I'm serious when I say to me.
Yeah, move it.
Well, not even move it. I can't. There's nothing on here. I mean, these are okay. So like I opened up the factions document, and it's just the factions we have in the other books.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Right. Those will get mentioned if they're important enough in
Here's what I'm going to do.
Regions.
I'm going to leave it here because if I move it into another folder, it'll get lost. But I'm going to put - not in book.
Sure. That's fine. That works because we can just refer to this.
Right. So not in book. And so I think the
other thing is some of those things are going to find themselves in the other sections. Cultural relations are going to be on a case-by-case basis of these people are isolationists. These people are very patriotic. These are nationalists, to some degree.
And then there's this big section that I should probably just avoid.
We're at 5 sections now.
Well, and when we say sections, the biggest section, I think, like really,
is the book. The book is a section.
It's a big section. No, it's going to be those regions.
Yeah, no, that's
like some of this other stuff. You could even roll. We're calling it a section, but like except for the character stuff, which usually
I don't believe you. I won't believe it until I see it.
Well, no,
it is short
like
now,
the cosmology of Dragongrin.
We'll find a way to make it 30 pages. Don't even kid me.
No, I'm not gonna this time.
You heard it here first, folks. Tim's gonna delete this video so that
first day of the rest of my life. No, do you know why? Gut level, real talk. People don't read it all.
No, they don't care.
They don't read it all. They want inspirational, cool, punchy. Now, people want lore, but they want it in a format that's cool, bullet points, roll tables, lists. So to me, the cosmology.
Okay, so what else? Then we got to wonders.
I'm trying to say, if we can, I would like to get cosmology down to a spread.
Yeah. Don't worry. That will not be something you have to convince me of.
Okay.
Trust me. So
but I'm just like, hey, so
we're in wonders now. So
right. Well, we skipped the whole section, but yeah, we'll do wonders.
Okay. Wait. I thought there were 3 sections.
Well, okay. I forgot about this.
Okay. So what's the next section?
I think that the next section would be wonders, but then the final section in the back of the book should be a quick, even if it's a short thing of like your Dragongrin, customizing the world. Meaning stuff that we use like, so for instance, things that we've already done, like the Copper Jackal's incursion generator, you just reskin it so it's the Dragongrin adventure generator, and you change the names from being specific to the Copper Jackals to being specific to a region. You say like, hey, you need this, so it's a little adventure generator in there.
To what region?
Well, let me show you.
So wouldn't that be in the region section? If it was for each region?
Here's the thing. No, because I think you should use this to generate the dungeons in the region. Here's what I mean. So you've got this, and it's pretty much like, and the people watching the video can't see it, but this is huge bunch of roll tables of environment, Arctic, grassland, underground, coastal, similar to the Copper Jackals one. And feel free to shoot me down. I don't care that this is being recorded. Because this is James'
I'm just trying to see what your...
My job is to make everything way too big and ridiculous and complicated, and then the other guys at AbTab make it so that it's palatable. So the idea is that this is the main set of tables. Then there's the dungeon archetype similar. And then each region gets a short table to where it's like a D6 each that would customize it to it. So for instance, so in a Y, it's just dungeon builders that would be here, current inhabitants that would be there, environmental traits.
So those would be in the regions.
Yes. Well, no. It would still be in this group of tables, the dungeon creator. So it would be like the incursion generator, but you do this first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, boom. It's like, oh, Arctic. Then you go to the D4. It's like, okay, well, what would that be? Will it be Leith or Varnholm?
Oh, I see. So you're rolling to see where it ends up.
Right. And so then you go
roll on the tables. Okay.
And then you go, oh, a Leith, and you come down here, and it's just, all right, so the Leith dungeon, it's a maze, spacious cave system, blah, you just do that. And then there's a quick little thing to customize it. So it's in Leith, the dungeon builders would be ice trolls. The current dungeon inhabitants would be ice mephits. The environment traits would be, frozen,
cold as hell,
cold. And then the legends and lore would be, the frozen king is laid to rest here. So this should be relatively short, but it's a way to then you use this.
Yeah. No, I get you.
To generate the dungeons that we list in the region. Because the region just has quick, like, Frozen King's Throne. That's all it is. That's all it says.
I got you. Okay.
But they can come here and go, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So it's that way, because to me, I think it's really cool. You're like, oh, I want to run something in Jahar. Well, you can come here and just make up your own little dungeon.
Yeah.
So anyway, a list of monsters, but we don't have to include this, but it was basically, we don't have to include this.
Yeah, no, because there's probably a section in the
monsters manual.
No, in the each region where if there's a specific monster, we're like, hey, these are a lot of these are here, they would end up there.
All right, so that I'll tell you about after we do the regions. Okay, so same thing for the adventure generation tables. That's the Copper Jackal's incursion generator. It just doesn't have Copper Jackal specific stuff.
Isn't that what we just looked at?
Similar.
What's the difference?
There would be, so it would be more
story about what you're doing. Not
it's the second part where it's like, you know, the room's on fire. I don't know. Again, if this gets too unwieldy, these are the things that would probably be stretch goals, text stretch goals for the Kickstarter. And then I did like an NPC generator, which maybe this is too much for the book. You know?
I feel like it might be getting away from what the book is.
The core feeling.
Because it's not, you're not generating an NPC for Dragongrin. It's just a generic NPC generator.
That's the thing, is I would try to make it specific to Dragongrin, and then
well, yeah, but that is causing the problem that we had before, or at least something we talked about before, which was, but it's kind of Dragongrin, and you can use it, and it's great. But I feel like this book is more like no, a little more specific than, yeah, you made it from the Dragongrin book, and you know that guy, he went to that place that's in Dragongrin for sure, and I'm like, it's cool, but I feel like it could end up being a little too generic.
Right. And then you're just having a half-baked NPC maker
inside of what should be a more specific inspirational book. Like if people want NPC generators, I think they should go somewhere else. Dungeon generator, I'll give you, because it's a little easier to say, you know, you could go generate a dungeon, see where it would be, and then go look at that section and say, oh, okay, yeah, Jahar, I would want to, run something here, and then you can go as far as you want to say these things.
Right.
So I think that makes sense.
So yeah, that would be the dungeon generator. The adventure generator, same thing, where it's just like, hey, do you want to do a chase? You know, here are some planes. I don't know. Something similar to the Copper Jackals thing, where it's region specific. So adventure
it's basically a plot hook generator.
It is for the different regions. But the concept, let's see here. I don't even know what I have in the customizing the world doc. Oh, it was the, and I talked to Barker about this. It was the questions from Campaign Master.
Yeah.
And it was saying, and I told him, I was like, hey, what if we said, here are, and I don't know if we want to include them whole cloth. Like, here are the questions from our other book. Answer these for your world and go get that book. Or if we want to write, or even not include this at all.
It depends. I would say,
because it could be breaking the meta, like, what is this section?
Yeah, I think so. Because again, it's like, I feel like we have a really good thing. And at some point you have to tell people, hey, if you want to really customize this, we have another book where it's all about customizing your world.
Right. And
you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool to add it in there, but it is a little bit out of place.
Right.
Whereas it makes more sense to say, hey, listen, if you're into creating a world, use these two things together.
Well, and some of the things that like I'm suggesting, it would be a half-baked, not as good version of a thing that exists elsewhere to do a very good job. Like when video games have mini games that aren't good, and you're like,
why did they even
include this in there?
I could just buy that game and play that instead.
Right. And this all comes from, gosh, it's been a year of just throwing stuff in here and go, oh, what about this? And what about this?
Yeah, for sure. And that makes sense. I guess that's why I'm like, it used to be about, Tim, there's no way we'll have time to write this. Now it's about, okay, we have time enough to write it, but is it worth putting the work in for that, for, like you said, what could end up being a half-baked idea that doesn't really lend itself to the style or tone of the book.
Right. And you don't want it to be the blemish where it's like, yeah, everything's really good, but then there's this weird NPC generator that feels like it's not fleshed out.
Yeah, that's like, oh, it's not really Dragongrin, because how do you, it's like,
Right. And listen, there's no shortage of NPC generators everywhere.
Well, and here's the other thing. I don't know what other people do, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of people use NPC generators. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah,
like
that's true.
if you're running something pre-made, the NPCs have probably already been written. If you need one on the fly, it's a cool thing to have on your DM screen. But usually you wrote the NPC beforehand.
And I'm curious to see what other people think. Not that would sway us. Like, well, the crowd has spoken. We're going to make a half-baked NPC generator.
But the idea being that we also want to make sure that this stuff is not only usable, but it's worth it.
Right.
It's not a matter of being usable. It's a matter of if it will be used.
Is the squeeze worth the juice?
Yeah.
Because the other thing is we're going to have a limited amount of time to write all of this stuff. Exactly. Even though we do have time, it's like, okay, we want to have plenty of time. And so you can burn a week writing a really good NPC generator, and then you're like, what did I do?
Yeah, you're like, what is Dragongrin anyway?
And that I do this. I'm like, oh, and then we'll do this, then we'll do this. And then, again, seriously, that's why I love talking this stuff out with you, because you're like, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So then the wonders of the world. And so imminence. And then I kind of put like...
It's always funny when there are just things that we've never talked about, where you're just like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I'm like, man, we need to focus. Like the Famists and the Desolation.
Yeah, that's been around.
No, the Ord Mist is the thing. Maybe that's one of the Famists you made up.
It could be. No, that's like...
Being around and telling me about it are not the same.
No, and that's honestly... I think what happens is...
No.
What happens is that I will do like live streams in my car, and then I'm like, hey, what would be cool?
That's what I mean. You'll have a cool idea, and that's fine. It's kind of funny because I'm like, that obviously won't be able to happen once we decide.
No, and okay, here, let me tell you where the famous...
I can't wait until this book is written. Tim's going to find a way in Azeroth that's like, no, there's this whole region.
There's this continent
that we forgot.
It's in
the ordinance.
This is different names for, tell me what it's called. Fairyland.
Oh, the Feywild and
the Feywild and the Shadowfell.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Because I don't want to use the Feywild and the Shadowfell because those are already. I don't even know if they're copyrighted.
I don't know what those things are. Aren't they like parallel universes?
Pretty much,
to some degree.
The Feywild is like where.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
Yeah.
Do we need those?
I think so, because it's heavily reliant on some of the racial stuff, as well as like where some creatures come from and where some magics come from. It's also very popular. People like the Fae and Fae creatures and all that stuff. So I think we don't have to go too crazy about it, but I think it has to have a place for that stuff to live. Because if you don't have a place for that stuff to live in the world, because I'm not a huge like Fae nut, but some people are like super down with it.
Well, yeah, but
so
I understand where you're coming from, and I want to say, not necessarily in defense of not putting it in there.
Sure.
But that isn't a good reason to me to put it in there.
Fair enough. So to me,
like, it's got to be awesome. And I'm like, well, if it's awesome, that means we got to really flesh it out. And like, but I just don't know how much. I don't know enough about the Feywild and the Shadowfell to say, are they literally just parallels of, hey, this is the Feywild, it's just called the Famists because it's a copyrighted word, and this is the Shadowfell because it's a copyrighted word.
There are enough, I think, lore containers that are useful for, and we don't have to do this, but it's like especially good to have a place where fairy magic lives.
I know. I guess what I'm saying
so to me,
we have to decide if we're saying, like I said, I don't know how much it encompasses. We have to decide if we're saying, hey, the Famists, this is the Feywild. End of story. These things come from there.
I think you could do something a little in between where you basically describe it lightly.
But that's what I mean. What is the Feywild? It's an alternate universe where the whole place exists.
And you know what? I can tell you this. I'm not an expert on it. I'm actually going to Google it.
I guess what I mean is, depending on what it is, there may not be enough for us to be like, hey, this is, you know what I mean? I'm like,
well, here's why. To me, this is where
it's just a plane.
It's okay. So it says the Feywild, also known as the plane of fairy, existed as an echo of the prime material plane. It was here that the Fae originated, giving the Feywild.
Ads are loading, so it's scrolled.
Yeah, it's giving the Feywild its name, and it's also a place of unusually potent magic. You know what it is? It's the in World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
it's the night elves.
No, because this is
Who
like
knows?
a sort of, but this is a parallel universe.
Correct. But what I'm saying is it's that same tone and feel to me.
Oh, okay, tone and feel. But I guess that's what I'm saying is, like, I don't know. Basically, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it feels a little too much like these are our beholders.
Which it is. It totally
Exactly,
is. But to me, though, but here's the thing. To me, it is. I think we should put some lore in there because it's such a big part of fantasy gaming, and I've latched onto a couple ideas in it.
So let's put it this way. Does it belong in this book alongside everything else? Because in the same way that the monsters are like, well, yeah, I mean, they touched on the Feywild, but I mean, there's not really enough there.
Well, the only
just to
reason,
let people know, like, hey, it exists.
It's more like that. Like, hey, here it exists. And it gets its own wonder section because, well, here's the way that I looked at it. Remember how we had the floating elven tree?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that that is guarding the main entrance to the Feymists.
But what if it was guarding the entrance to some other material plane or some other different plane that we made up? That was our own.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what we are doing.
Well, no, we're just saying this is
Feywild.
Do you see what I mean?
Can I tell you, though, that the reason why is because then you have to come up with an entire plane where I'm like, I think...
But we still have to do that anyway. Dude, that's what I'm saying is like...
Right, but the tone and the feel is decided already. You're starting with a template. You're starting with an archetype. And we can do our own thing. I'm not saying we just rip off the Feywild. But I'm saying that your magical elven realm can be whatever you want, but you just say, hey, it exists. You feel what I'm saying? I mean, I don't...
Yeah.
If we don't have to include that stuff. And then the desolation is the Shadowfell because it's a popular place for dark things to come crawling out of.
Well, yeah, but we came up with a place for dark things to crawl out of.
Well, yes and no. There's the bleak, but
there's the bleak and there's Varnholm. And I'm like, so that's what I mean.
Well,
like,
but the thing is, okay,
I guess what I'm saying is we never really decided if there were other planes. And to me, it feels...
I don't think there should be many. I think it should just be those that are called by name and say, okay, here's where they are. If you want to cut them, we can cut them.
I would say we don't have to cut them. I would say if we get to them and we're kind of like, hey, this is basically the Feywild, or this is basically, there's not enough here, or that's my fear, is that everything will be really cool and have its own, the regions will be really fleshed out and it'll be awesome. And then you'll get to that section and it'll be cooler than this, but we're basically be saying, but don't forget, there are also planes that more or less mirror the Shadowfell and the Feywild, even though we have other crazy things for stuff to come out of and places. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I feel like we're putting it in there almost as an obligation because, like you said, certain things, like if I want to use something from D&D that draws from the Feywild and somebody wanted to play that in Dragongrin, they might say, oh, well, where does my thing come from if there's no Feywild? There's no Feywild parallel.
And what would you say?
Well, that's what I mean. So I'm like, well, I would say it would have come from somewhere. I'd want to come up with what that somewhere is.
And we can.
But that's what I mean. I feel like like I said, I don't know how much but if the Feywild is an echo of the whole world, like,
right.
Well, aren't you basically like, you would need a whole book to be like, yeah, this is this place in the Feywild.
Totally. But the same way that we did Deep Vault, where it's like, here's some bullet points on the infinite lock. And so, well, I mean, there's more than that, but it's like,
yeah, I guess that's what I mean is it feels to me a little bit less because we're like, hey, this is awesome. And a little more like, we kind of need to put this in there. So like I said,
it's definitely, let me put it this way. It started as, oh, wow, we need to kind of put this in there because there were some thoughts that I thought, okay, this shouldn't come from the bleak because it doesn't fit the tone of the bleak. And it shouldn't come from,
other places. No, I got you. Basically,
so it's like, okay,
where things to come from.
Right. And like
I said, I would say we don't have to cut it, but I do feel a little bit like it's too big of a topic to just put in one section. But basically, we'll see when we get there.
And
we'll see if we read it and we're like, man, this is just, I don't know. We can just mention it. Or basically, I feel like we're in a weird spot where we can mention it so that people can use it. Like, hey, it's basically the Feywild. Or we can like really flesh it out and make it really cool. But that would be hard to do in this book because we're doing that with everything else already.
So the middle ground maybe is to say, when you say flesh it out, maybe it's not flesh it out, but maybe it's come up with really cool ideas that are different. Because I know little to nothing about the actual Fae and the Feywild. I like the concept. I'm not someone who's played a lot. So it's going to be different by default because you and I don't know a lot. But I'm like, okay, we're in our realm.
But that's what I mean.
What would the Fae be?
What if we don't solve the problem because we don't know enough about it? You know what I mean?
Well, no, but I'm saying, and I think it could be a good thing.
I guess what I mean is that's the part that is eating at me a little bit. The idea that
people are going to expect one thing and get another?
No, that we never decided. I think Fae should live in Dragongrin.
I think you're kind of saying that when you say elves live in Dragongrin. Unless you want to go.
I don't know enough about the Fae, but I'm like, well, are there Fae? They're fairies, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like little, what do you call those? The workers in Warcraft 3. Little sprites and stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
To me, I'm like, that doesn't really fit the tone of Dragongrin, but
that's why
it's obligatory. Like, you got to have them in there. But do
you know that's why I wanted to stick them away in the sky and cover it with a tree?
But I guess that's the important thing, is it's not about the Fae or the Shadowfell or anything else. It's the fact that we never decided, hey, is this something we want in the world? We just said, this needs to be in the world. And I'm like, well, who says?
No one says. We can change it.
So that's what I'm saying about this section, is I will consider it, but I feel like if we get there and I'm like, this isn't Dragongrin, I want to be like, oh, we'll cut it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
I do see what you're saying. To me, here's where, and again, this comes from, honestly, we don't talk about the world a ton.
Yeah.
And then when we do, it's like, I know that I'm constantly running my mouth off on streams, like coming up with ideas, but none of it's canon. It's just for world building and ideas. Like, hey, I'm thinking this, and I'm guilty. Some of it, I then go, I'm like, no, we talked about it. We didn't talk about it. I talked about it for an hour in my car.
Yeah.
And 600 people watched and commented on it. So I forget sometimes what we talk about, but.
Because in the same way, and again, it's a similar concept, but I feel like we're past this already. The Underdark. The idea that if you come up with a world, it doesn't have to have an Underdark.
I agreed with that.
But you should say, should we have an Underdark? Before you say, we do. You know what I mean? Basically making a conscious decision to add it because you think it'll be cool, rather than saying, well, people are going to expect an Underdark, so we better come up with an Underdark.
let me be clear about this, because I see what you're saying, and that is, it was both at the same time.
And that's all.
Really.
So I guess that's what I'm saying. That's all I mean about it, is I'm like, listen, we'll put a pin in that one.
Sure.
Because I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, let me spit some fire for you. Because I don't want you to think, and I don't want anybody to think, and we're going to get 100 comments like, dude, you guys just do you and don't worry about it. And it's like, listen, I am doing me and I'm not worried about it. It struck me that there was an empty place in the world and I couldn't find a place for a thing that I was coming up with to live. And then I thought, oh, you know where this should live. Exactly.
But here's what I'll say.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we have to come up with it now.
Totally agree.
Because
however, well, go ahead, finish. I interrupted you, but I'm like, go ahead.
If I was a GM and I was running something, and because this is like the whole point of the book, I was running something and somebody's like, listen, I want to play this new Unearthed Arcana where this guy came from the Feywild and all of his magic comes from there and he has fairy followers. They look and they're like, there's nothing about Fae in this book. In the Dragongrin guide, it's not there. But they never said it wasn't there. So as a GM, I'm like, well, yeah, okay, then there's the Feywild. Just like grab the Feywild from where it exists.
Sure, and that's fair.
So I guess what I mean is, then a year later, we're like, oh, here's the friggin' Fae Mists and the Desolation. And then people can grab that. But I guess I want to be very concentrated in what we add. And if, again, in general,
sure,
I am being very picky about what we throw in there, because I'm like, well, certain things should get a full treatment. Like monsters, we cut so fast because we're like, you don't do
it needs a full treatment.
I'm not saying this does, but
and this, to me, I'm not inspired enough. Maybe I would be someday. I'm not inspired enough to ever spend the time on the schedule and the brain power to do a famous Desolation book.
Exactly.
So to me, this is hey, we didn't forget. Here are some cool ideas of how we would skin it. This is how we kind of do it. So that when that Unearthed Arcana comes out, the DM can say, oh, yeah, let me just hit up that section, see kind of how it would work. Oh, okay, so
So
All
yeah,
right, you probably
like I
from
said,
here, you probably from here.
when we get to that section and like are writing it and come up with some stuff,
well,
we'll see.
let me tell you why I think it doesn't have to be in this section, because it could also be in, but to me, and again, this is one of those things where I think it was on a stream, basically the elves, well, you actually came up with the door side, the water elves.
Maybe.
I remember for sure. It's on a damage reduction. You came up with, instead of drow, they're like these aquatic elves.
Okay.
Anyway, so here's the idea. All the elves lived in, and this is kind of a lore dump, but this is why I thought this is important, because I think it's kind of like, oh, cool, that flavor. The elves are fae. They guard it's Talus, which is the life tree.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of guards the entrance. It's in the sky, guards the entrance to the Fey Mists. You don't go into a bunch of detail, but the idea is that, excuse me, who knows why and how, maybe they got forgotten, whatever, but this entrance to the Fey Mists is just not used very much, and so they're kind of like guarding it forever for nothing. So a lot of the elves were like, hey, we're kind of done with this, and we want to leave this floating tree and just go somewhere else. We can't get back into the Fey Mists. It's difficult to do. And then we want to go downtown. They are what become the mountain elves, basically. I think
we talked about that.
Right, and there's like a civil war. The life tree breaks, so part of it shards.
I guess here's what I'm saying. In my mind, it doesn't matter what's behind that portal. It can totally be the Fey Mists, but do you see how I'm like, but that whole story can still happen even if there's nothing concrete there.
So what I'm saying is then this could live in the section where we talk about Talus.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm getting
and you're
there.
like
I'm
other
saying,
planes. So I guess that's what I mean is, but I feel like saying, well, that plane has to be the famous because there's the Feywild and we need one of those.
Well, it is a neatly wrapped up thing. It's like, okay, this is where all that stuff lives.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
I'm not trying to rip anything off.
No, I got you. But in my mind, I'm like, but does that stuff live here?
It doesn't have to.
Because it could also be, I mean, we have so many regions, we can find a place for it to live.
Sure.
I'm sure there's an apartment somewhere they could live in.
Listen, we got a lot of nice homes.
I don't know. That is my feeling.
And I want to tell you about the desolation. The desolation was, it's the upside down. Everybody knows the Shadowfell, the dark.
I don't know.
Twisted. Well,
Shadowfell seemed like sort of a cheesy vampire land.
It is. Ravenloft is in the Shadowfell.
Is that cheesy vampire land?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ravenloft is. So,
because that's where Strahd is. Strahd takes place.
Yep.
I know there's the keep there. It's on it. It's like right on top of it.
There actually is that. They did keep on the Shadowfell. So, the Shadowfell, sometimes called simply Shadow, is a parallel plane from which necrotic energies and shadow magic stemmed. It existed as a sort of counterpart to the Feywild in the sense that it was a reflection.
When was this created? I don't remember this, except for relatively recently.
I don't know when it was
created. In the last few years. I mean, now maybe I just didn't
1385 DR, James. Duh.
Maybe I just didn't hear about it back when I played 3.5, but I was just like, man, I remember Keep on the Shadowfell coming out for 4th edition. Is that like a 2nd edition thing? It's not important.
Let's see. Well,
it's not a thing that we should find out right now.
References: December 2008, Manual of the Planes, 4th edition.
Okay, there we go.
I don't know if I don't know if that's how long ago.
That's when it was. Not important. No. Listen, I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, okay. Here's what is important.
Tell me about the desolation.
What is important is, to me, the desolation is
how
not
can things be worse.
Well, because.
Screw it. Dragongrin sucks. I'm going to live in the desolation because it's actually better there.
Here's how things can be worse. That's actually, to me, the coolest part about the desolation. If you are from there, it's not worse. You think it's better, and you think you're the hot stuff.
Do people live there?
I think so.
In the Shadowfell?
Yeah.
Not just vampires and like weird
Not
people?
just vampires.
I imagine it's just like
it's awful. And there's
it's called the desolation. I imagine it's not awesome.
Much of the Shadowfell was a twisted reflection of the prime material plane and was populated primarily by dead creatures such as ghosts, specters, and other undead, who for whatever reason refused to leave the Shadowfell. There were, however, numerous other inhabitants, such as communities of Shadarkai, Shadavar, and Dark Ones. There are other creatures that live there. So this is what the idea was for my side of this.
Mm-hmm.
The elves in Talus have the floating life tree. That was they were supposed to be guarding the entrance to the Fey Mists. The Drivy elves were supposed to be, they had Aquianus, and they're supposed to be guarding the Desolation. They get all twisted guarding it. And the space between the planes, Cthulhu-y kind of awful stuff. And they get twisted over time. So now they were like coral armor, and they're just coral. But that is now a super dungeon. That is also where the Copper Sun came from. I think that the Talus elves gifted the Copper Sun to man, and that they're similar. So the Copper Sun and Aquianus are the same make, but Aquianus is like in Atlantis. Anyway, the point is that to me, I think it's cool if the Desolation is guarded by that, but it's leaky. It's not working. It's leaking up, and it's like right under Sphere. And that leakage is what causes Sphere to be all haunty, Ravenlofty, undeady. Not under Sphere below, but in the water, like next to. So like Sphere below, Aquianus.
Okay.
And then it just seeps up.
Now
what blocks the Desolation from getting all there is the Infinite Lock. The Titans have that whole place to where it's like.
But do you remember the other way the undead were there? Why they were there? That was way cooler, wasn't it? So
there's a difference between this, which is ghosts, specters.
So wait, okay. So Aquianus is like Talus, but guarding
underwater.
It's guarding the Shadowfell.
It's guarding Dark Gate. Tree up top is guarding Light Gate.
Okay. But Sphere above is undead.
Yes.
But Sphere above is undead because the Dark Gate is leaking.
Yes.
And that's why the Infinite Lock. The Infinite Lock was on default, not on.
Correct. But what I'm saying is that to me, and I'm just making this up as I was.
That's what I mean. Basically, what I'm saying is I feel like you took a few things we had ideas for, and you're like, well, this. And I'm like, well, I thought.
Oh, maybe that's like usually not on purpose. It's usually because we forget.
We'll get there.
Well, okay.
Well, because we want to talk about other stuff.
I know. Well, we still have another hour.
Well, yeah. Regions are going to take an hour and 20 minutes.
Well, no. And I don't think we should go over all those.
I agree.
Oh, yeah, we should. But here's what I'm saying.
No, I was agreeing that we shouldn't.
The other thing is, here's the way I look at it. And because I don't want it to be convoluted. But to me, if we need to cut any of this, we totally can. To me, the Sarek live in like middle and upper Sphere, because Sphere is huge. Now it could get smaller, but on the map it was like flipping.
Yeah, when you say Sphere, you mean Sphere above.
Sphere above the mountains, not Sphere below. And so to me,
yeah, like there's a lot going on there. It's a big area.
Yeah. So to me, Aquianus is there. And dude, do you know what? We could put Aquianus under Sphere below.
Well, yeah, but we just had it off the coast somewhere because
we did, but that was terrible map making.
Here's the thing. You can't, because if it's like the Copper Sun, it was once a floating city. So did they just load in the bay doors, or?
No, I think that this one, it's either, you could either say that the technology was designed so that it could be either.
It can never rise. Like that's like all I want. It's like
Aquianus
for it to come out of the water.
No, that's what I'm saying. No. It's what I'm trying to tell you. It's an all-terrain city. I'm trying to explain to you that to me, the elven technology can go anywhere. They designed it to be anywhere. So it's the same thing.
That's what I mean.
It's just underwater like you'd put an ATV.
Yes, but it can't be underground.
Oh, I'm saying underwater, not underground.
Underwater where? You said in Sphere.
Under Sphere below is water.
Yes. So if it was under, okay, so follow me here. Sphere above, Sphere below.
How are you going to map water that? For that reason alone?
No. Okay, it rises. Where is it now?
Oh, I see.
Sphere below. I'm like, how does it get out? There's no bay doors.
I see what you're saying.
Fly out. Like,
the bay doors. I see.
That was so I'm like,
instead of going.
So I'm cool with it being underwater somewhere.
So like, let's make it, dude. Let's make it on the edge, the southernmost edge of the Sphere Mountains. It would be really cool if parts of it, like Raleigh, are creepy up into the mountains.
I think that it should be on the northern portion, and it shouldn't have anything to do with Sphere above. It should be more
northern portion of where?
Of Dragongrin. It should be more Uldane.
You want to go that? Because there's a lot happening in Uldane already.
Well, but we already had a reason there was undead in Sphere above, and I don't think this should be it.
Here's the thing. I think, personally.
And wait, isn't Aquianus? Wait, where do the Drivy elves live?
The Drivy elves live in the North Mountains.
And they guard Aquianus.
No, that's the Dorsai elves.
The Dorsai elves, where do they live?
They live in Aquianus.
So they live under the water in the defunct city.
It's a super dungeon in the very top layer.
So
it's
they
like
just breathe water?
Yeah, I think they need to have gills.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Sure. No, I think, right? I'm thinking that they have gills.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That makes sense. I just wanted to be clear that they were not living in a place that was like, oh, hey, don't go down there. You know what I mean? They're not on a dock somewhere in a city. Like, no.
I think there are drow. I think they have black shark eyes, like some gills on their neck.
That's totally cool. I just wanted to
they
make
live
sure
on that top level and they breed. I think they should be so many in number because I think they should be like a swarm, like Zerg numbers. And they just constantly send people down to guard the gates. But it's all Cthulhu nonsense.
Yeah, no,
getting all going driven mad.
I guess there's just something about it being off the coast and like, oh, it's getting bad stuff up in the mountains. I'm like, it's so far away though.
All right, then cut that because I agree.
That's what I mean. Where I'm like, I could see it being more ordained, but it's just like
so then let's cut that.
Are so big.
Let's cut that. But the reason why is because I liked the idea that in the Sphere Mountains, the desolation was leaking.
Oh well, yeah, but you could just have a different reason. Right. I love that idea. I'm just like,
no. So then let's just say that because you know why? It's bad world building to assume that one thing causes one thing in the world.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
So okay, but this is the kind of stuff we need to be doing, and this is just raw. Listen, man, we talked about this world for 2 years.
That's what I mean. I think that we'll do this for each region, maybe,
sure,
whether recorded or not. But the idea being, have this, and then we'll jump in and write a bunch.
Okay.
And see, because this is important to get on the same page.
I know. And listen, I know that my mind never stops, and I'm constantly coming up with stuff, and some of it sucks, and some of it's good, and some of it I just forget to tell you.
Yeah.
And so I think about it. I talk about it in the stream. And then you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, excuse me.
But this is good. This is what I need
to hear.
Yeah,
it's not usually a matter of like, hey, don't come up with stuff without me. It's more like, hey, let's get on the same page so that we both realize we didn't come up with stuff and not tell each other or don't remember. And
you always find good verisimilitude to make sure that this all works together.
Yeah.
Like what you just did where I'm like, oh, sometimes I get so close to it where I'm like, for the desolation to be there.
And that's what I mean. I'm like, yeah, just,
Here's the way I imagine it. Sphere, the Sarek, the Sentient Undead, live north with the mountain elves.
Mm-hmm.
The south is just, for whatever reason, is like vile, necrotic undead, ghouls, liches, whites.
Just throw something weird out there
that
you maybe think of it had nothing to do with that.
Sure.
A little bit. So we have mountain elves.
Werewolves.
Do we have wood dwarves? Forest dwarves?
No, you wanna?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so here. Okay.
Okay, can I just say something else?
Kind of.
Can we take like 5? I got to pee so bad after this energy drink.
Yeah.
We should do that. Okay, I also gotta close this door, Cass.
I'm not gonna stop the stream though.
No, that's what I mean. That's fine. I was just letting you know, like, hey, like it's a game. We're gonna take 5 minutes to close this. Cassie will be home soon. Love it. Oh, she's gonna be whatever. Ty, whatever. It's not important. She's gonna open the door.
Let's see here. What's up, buddy? Hey, you want to be on camera? Here, this is Ty. Hi, what's up, Ty? You're on camera. You're on camera. Ty is the one who is always farting under the table and trying to turn off the power switch. So, anyway. Got a little behind the scenes there for you. Check my phone here. Text my mom back. Leave me alone, Mom. My wife and I are looking to buy a house. Houses are not cheap. It's just what happens. It's so not cheap. And it doesn't help that I was started looking for a house. Like I looked 7 years ago before I moved to our townhouse. And so the rates have gone way up. And I'm like, there's RV parking at this house. Stick around, James. I heard him just finish peeing. The door's right next to me here. I have to go too when you come back. James? Okay. So hopefully you're enjoying this. Legitimately, this is raw world building. This is also when two people work together. I mean, you got to come up with a process, and this is our process. We kind of go off and just make our own stuff.
I didn't know who you were talking to, but I hope it wasn't me.
No, well, for a little while I was. Well, I just said, hey, I got to go too.
That's the only part I heard. I heard other words.
You know what's funny? I've had my headphones in the whole time, and I haven't listened to a single song.
We were just talking to each other.
I know. Are we going to listen to music this time?
We can. Well, yeah, we can.
What do you want to know? Because then we listen to different music. And I'll be like, dude, you know what I think? Woo! You'll be listening to a sad song and makes you cry. Like, I think you tell ourselves.
Like, you made me cry. You made me cry so much time, buddy. I need you to lay down. Can you lay down for me? Lay down, buddy. Wow.
Are you going to drink your other energy drink?
No. Probably drink it tomorrow. Oh, you can't hear me. I'm not going to yell.
So, what were we talking about?
Aquianas and stuff.
Aquianas and stuff.
But we
all right. I was just saying that.
Oh, yeah, you were about to tell me something. I said, let's put a pin in that. I got to pee.
The mountain elves, the Sarek, we were talking about that.
Yeah, you were saying they live with the mountain elves. I brought up wood dwarves, but you were like, all right.
Oh, right. Elves. Okay, so, all right. So I came up with a race play test just to do some mechanic stuff. Mm-hmm. I thought, so not forest dwarf. Well, I guess no, this is already a thing. I'm talking like this isn't a thing. It's hill dwarves. I'm being dumb. They're hill dwarves. But anyway, there's this. The races were the Grimdal dwarves, and they're in place of like.
What if they lived in the trees?
They can.
I'm just like going crazy.
We can flip flop them. That's fine with me.
Well, no, but like you said, they're already there. So.
Well, what I'm saying is that to me, the Grimdal dwarves are like big. They're not like. They would almost be like Goliath sized.
So they're like half giant, not like literally, but
sort of
size wise.
Nah, sort of. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're kind of like they're called the broad-fisted dwarf or broad-fist dwarves.
Okay.
Basically, they're like, but I think of them as like gentle shepherds and like welcoming, like
yeah.
So I mean, which is already kind of a thing. It's like hill dwarves, but in our world, I think instead of the normal. Here's a hill dwarf. Here's the deal. It's more like like I said, they're larger and they're gentle. I don't know. So we could totally throw them in the trees. There would be some that would be in the trees.
We might find a place to put them. That's okay.
That'd be tough. They're pretty big.
That's a good point. They don't live
these branches.
They're the Zaman dwarves, man. They live in the mines of Zaman. Mines. They're just the sea of trees. Listen, man.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea.
Well, something's gonna live there, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right. So anyway,
what do you really want to talk about?
Well, so we talked about the famous and the Shadowfell, which we'll figure out. Like you said, maybe they don't earn their own section of like, this is what makes Dragon good. Because all that other stuff is you need to know this because it makes up the content of the world.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, that felt a little bit tacked on.
What if it goes into the life section?
Sure. That's what I mean. We can totally mention it somewhere.
James. Oh my God. I could have saved us an hour. There should just be brief mention to them in the cosmology section.
Okay, sure. That's what I mean. I'm like, I was like, dude, I'm not okay with the section on this. I'm like, it just doesn't fit.
Dude.
So we're going to have to decide what the Copper Sun actually looks like. We've talked about a few things, but now that it's broken away, I'm like, no, we had some ideas, but none of them really work anymore.
I like the idea that the Copper Sun is allowed to stand because the Dismembered Lord is superstitious and it's part of
I mean like how it looks. I'm down with all that stuff.
Oh, well, I don't know. I've always imagined it as looking like, okay, Google orrery. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I was gonna say we have a few things about it. Yeah.
That's what I've always imagined it looking like an orrery.
Well, and that's
ORRERY.
Yeah, Google corrected that for me. Thanks.
Corrected it for me too. But like, okay, it doesn't look exactly like that. But
No,
it's
but
that
style.
concept.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of,
to where it's like,
not literally, but like by looking at that, I'm getting an idea of where we're headed.
Right. And I imagine it as looking, the reason why it's called the Copper Sun is, and it would have to look really cool. I love it when an artist takes.
Would have to look really cool.
Right. Well, I think it should be circular with a bunch of different platforms.
Well, exactly. And we talked about that, but yeah, we'll have to, I don't know, maybe, do you want to decide one thing and talk about it? Because we can go all in on the Copper Sun, or we can go over more stuff.
No. Let's just say, I think this is a good point. It's like, okay, we need to decide what it looks like.
That's what I mean.
So let's just leave that there, meaning.
Because
okay.
I'm like, I have some ideas, but it needs to make sense as well. It could look cool, but I'm like, well, that doesn't.
Well, if you have some ideas, go for it.
No, I just have ideas of why what you want doesn't make sense. So
then change it. Really, I don't care. As long as
that's
it looks
why I said
cool.
One day we're going to talk about it.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Why don't you tell me generally why what I.
It originally, the idea was it had multiple platforms.
Yeah.
But I think that it needs to work a little bit less. So it I don't think the platform should be flying around. Also, imagine if you were on a moving platform all day, every day. That would get kind of sickening, I think.
Well, I think the platform is bigger than you realize. So you don't feel it as much. No?
Is that how it works?
Elven gyroscopes. You don't feel like you're moving.
Why wouldn't you feel like you're moving? You're moving.
Well, you'd feel the wind, but you wouldn't feel the nausea from movement because the gyroscope stabilizes you. I don't know science. Does that work?
I was like, do you know how gyroscopes work? Here's the important.
Not really. I know how.
Like I said, the other important thing is
Batman on the operating table in The Dark Knight Returns.
What
he says the word gyroscope, and I go, yep.
What I'm saying is, based on what we said, it was connected, and it pulled away, and I'm like, in my mind,
so here
it's a bigger, just one thing, and it can have platforms connected somehow, but I don't think they should sort of orbit the way we imagined in the past.
However, that is sort of the cool factor of the whole thing.
Not really, it's a flying golden city. That's the cool. You know what I mean?
Copper. No, I'm kidding. But
you know, that's a good point. Actually, I always imagined it as gold because it's the sun, not copper. It's the Copper Sun, but
it could be gold. It doesn't have to actually be the color copper.
See, these are the things.
Well, but there's going to be a million of those. There's until we.
I know, but what I mean is, I feel like instead of doing any real work, we are talking about the tiniest details.
No, but that matters. You know why? Because you got to square that away. It's such a big part of the world. All right, we'll get into that other part. But here's the thing I was going to tell you, is that to me, one of the things. Yeah, that's great.
But not like these things are floating. I'm like, no, literally like that. Like that's the whole thing.
Okay.
And
so then my voice cracked. Okay. So here's the thing.
Months on the outside.
I really like the idea. This is sort of making it, I think, really cool. Is that the platforms don't move anymore. And
that's what I mean. I feel like something is it doesn't work anymore. That's the main thing I'm shooting for. In
that, there has been other things built on top of it so that you can get from this huge platform to this huge platform.
I like
because they used to be, every hour it moves.
I'm down with that.
Now it's like, okay, no, we've had to build our human bridge across this old ancient. So now that's perfect. You know what that solves? It doesn't look like this shining beacon of hope when you get up close. It looks like the rebels live there.
Yeah.
The people have to live there. Like, look, man.
This is how we get around. It doesn't move anymore, so we built a rope bridge.
Exactly. Like when you have...
no, I'm down.
Like in post-apocalyptic worlds, when something of great value is a table.
Yeah.
Because it has no use anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this mishmash of like I would even say some of the platforms is it's a ghetto with tents.
Yeah. It's like, this is just area.
This is
a safe place to live, but these are the poor people.
Right. And it's like this flat disc with tents all over it. And it's like, okay, cool. So that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the Copper Sun. Let me take the famous and the desolation out because that needs to go in the cosmology section. Just to mention.
Yeah.
And that's also where you put a breakout box that says any plane can exist here. You know, the desolation would be a good way to get to the fire planes. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So I think in the wonder section, so immanence, which is the sort of creation force of the world, I think that deserves a section. Even if it's one page. These sections also don't have to be symmetrical.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, that's fair.
The Machinations of the Ancients, the reason why this is in here,
You
this
just
is
put the deep vault book in.
I so cut and pasted the infinite lock and pasted it in. But I think that's the thing, is you need to mention, hey, there's old stuff from a civilization that, and here are some examples of that.
Exactly. But that wouldn't. Okay, no.
It can go in the regions, but there's not enough in the regions.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's
this is more like the,
I
hey,
realized,
Dungeon Master. Now, here's the thing I want to say about these wonders sections. To me, they should be pillar of information, not textbooky, not wall of text, just cool pillars of information, and then tons of inspiration. So, like, it would be cool. And they don't all have to be random generators, but even if it's just a list of like, hey, here goes some relics that would be in any region.
Exactly.
You know, a primordial arm bone, you know, with a blah, 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 blah. And it's just so that you get the vibe. You get it. And you're like, okay, that is how I think these wonders sections should be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some info tagged with tons of inspiration. Like, here's how you use it in a game.
Yeah.
Often when you see these like things in a book, you're like, okay, cool, I just read that and I have no idea how to
what
use
do
it.
I do? Because the other thing is, if
Cool
it's
lore.
like, this thing lives here, you're like, oh, but my players aren't going there.
Right.
And you're like, well, I could move it, but what if they ever go there? Then what will be there?
Right. So to me, this is like how that would work. So that's the Machinations of the Ancients. The Bleak, obviously. There has to be a super wicked roll table of like awful effects. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the weather changes 100 degrees and you die is like the D100 table. Like, that's 100. If you roll 100, you die in the Bleak. The Dragon's Grin, a graveyard for dragons, which is Uldane, but it's basically, we got to figure all that out. But it's called Dragongrin, and that's like where it happens. To me, that makes it like.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
Sure.
Does it have to be on the northern point?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me say this. To me, the northern point was what we decided was going to be called Bleakward.
Well, yeah.
And it was cool. That doesn't have to be. It could be north, you know, northeast, Bleakward, west. I just think that the Bleak being crazy over it is like cool.
Well, and it still could be.
Right. But I'm saying that's why it was north, because it's Bleakward and it's like.
I just, in my mind, I'm like, but what if it was like, because based on the way you have it, flip the whole Dragongrin map we've done upside down.
Okay.
And it looks like a little grid. What if it were on the bottom? I mean, that might be like a little too on the nose, but why wouldn't people call it the Dragon's Grin? It's like, oh, graveyard, double meaning. It looks like a little smiley face down there, but it's not.
I'm down with that.
We also don't know
is
yet.
south.
Could be. Because we don't know yet what the world's going to look like. I mean, we decided we're going to kind of change up the map.
Okay.
Not necessarily where things are, but I just had that idea.
Okay, so
just something to consider.
Basically, let's put it this way. What if we say it this way? Whatever it is, wherever it is, the geography, like Italy looks like a boot. What if the geography looks like a Dragongrin?
That's what I mean. It'd be cool. My first thought was just putting it on the bottom, but it could be anywhere.
Right. Meaning, so wherever it ends up, it would be cool if it was representative. Like, oh, that looks just enough like a dragon smiling.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. We'll see.
And if that seems a little too on the nose, we'll dial it in to where it's like, no, that's a dragon. Just like Italy is a boot. That happens.
It's a boot.
It happens.
That's real life. It's a boot.
So it's a boot. What? It's a boot. Like
it's a boot.
$15. Move that. Okay, so let's talk about this. That also should go in the cosmology. The Old Vale is where the druids get their magic. It's like the primordials are all about it.
Yeah, I guess that'd be cosmology. That makes sense.
Put it in cosmology.
Well,
I'm going to change it.
Unless you have some idea of a bunch of stuff that belongs there, but to me, it's like it wouldn't be that much, you know.
Put in.
Because I don't think there would be enough to say about this is where the druids, you know what I mean? We could probably come up with a couple, 2 paragraphs, but I wouldn't be like, hey, this whole section should have been somewhere else.
Yeah, and it, like you said, it does.
It fits in cosmology.
Right. Typhons, which I think that is enough to have its own little, because there's enough of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's art and like you.
Here's the thing. The way I see it, well, depends. Yeah. If you're writing a bunch about Typhons, because the other thing is they're going to get their race is going to be the Typhon-born, at least they're going to be in the races section.
Right. I don't know if it, as silly as it sounds, I don't know if they will. I think that should just stay in deep vault because it's so unique and rare.
I guess what I mean is, how would you feel about putting it in the Machinations of the Ancients part? Because they were
that
creative.
Works
because they could get their own section, but
I feel like they're so it would be perhaps uneven to be like, and then here's this, and here's this, and then here's a bunch about Typhons.
I guess that's what I mean. How much about Typhons? Because I'm like, we literally haven't seen them in one game.
Well, because they're not around. They're not around.
So that's what I mean. I'm like, so maybe one day there's a book about Typhons.
And there will be. I think. No, I think it should be the Typhonomicon. But I think that here's why.
So I'm saying that's what I mean.
Do you know why?
Totally be a wonder, but it feels a little out of place.
Well, let me try to sway you with this. I think it's a large enough concept that it exists outside of the machinations of the ancients.
Okay, as long as it's a large enough concept.
I think it's a large enough concept, even if it's a 2-page
spread. Because we've written a bunch about them already.
Right.
Are we writing new stuff about them?
What
are we finding, I guess?
I think it would be polishing that stuff up, making sure that it's spot on, giving people ideas of where they would be in the world today, where you could find some, if you can, the different colors, like speculation.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm
some different sketches.
Basically, assuming there's enough to be like, hey, this is a whole thing. Like, this is important.
So we'll put it this way. If it doesn't have enough, then we will put it into machinations.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Is I'm like, that one, I could see it being a little out of order, weirdly.
Right. No, that makes sense to me. So let's do. All right. Now, Lightfall. To me, I would love it if this section was like, I don't know what else would go in there, but I was super excited about a battle generator. Like, here's a famous battle where like just a little, even if it's a D20, kind of like the Sentinel Gate generator, a D20 table of like, this happened here, this, and then they lost because of this or something, or they won because of this. Like, I don't know. I want there to be a little Lightfall battle generator.
I think that's cool. But to me, because it is such a fixed point in time where a very specific thing happened 20 years ago based on the present, I feel like that's unhelpful. What would you use that for?
So
it'd be cool to have a battle generator. Don't get me wrong.
Here's why. And that's a great point. Because this section is going to be about how that stuff still litters the world today. Like a battleship on the shore that never was moved because no one cares about it. So it's like, so it would be something you would come across in the world, an abandoned blah full of these bones.
Well, and that's what I mean. I could see that being different. That's like cool stuff around the world.
Oh, well, what I mean is like, so combine the two. So it's like, okay, so for instance, it's not a battle generator like it's happening now. It's here were famous battles of Lightfall.
Exactly. But I'm like, it's such a specific thing to me that I'm like, wouldn't we just want to come up with some cool famous battles of Lightfall? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're touching on that.
Do you know why? Because I think that we should. But then you have a little generator because it's not just a textbook. People shouldn't just learn the history of the world.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is, to me, like, I don't know. In my mind, the way I imagined Lightfall, not enough happened that you could generate it because I'm like, the last one is always, and the bad guys won.
Well, and to me, okay, and
like,
so let's talk about this. To me, I think Lightfall,
it would only be in Grin.
Yes and no. So, okay, so here's the way that I imagine Lightfall. I think to me, it would represent probably like the last week.
Okay.
Of not just the dismembered lord saying, hey, I got you, but also when in different areas, they were like, oh, he won. Okay, well, we got to pick sides. So kill them. Like stuff like that.
Well, and that's what I mean. That's fair. But like I said, that would make more sense to me in the Grand Region section.
When you see the region template, there's not really a place for that.
I guess what I'm saying is I feel like it's a little too specific.
But that's the point. It's about Lightfall.
I know, but I guess what I mean is, as far as helpfulness of a roll table, it's a cool idea.
But that's what it is. It's an inspiration thing. So okay, here's what I'm saying. The reason why I'd want to include it is just so that you could flesh out what Lightfall is in your world.
Yeah. So when we get there, we'll figure out what that looks like.
Okay. And that's fair. It's just a concept, and in practice, in the same way that like when we were writing the Copper Jackal's incursion tables, the first idea we had was to make it like a Mission Impossible mission generator.
And that's what I'm saying.
And it didn't end up, it was like, that's too specific.
And that's why I'm saying when we get there, we'll have to see what it means. And the four of us will have to figure it out. Because right now I'm like,
maybe it's
doesn't sit
okay.
super great with me.
Let me say it this way then. It's not necessarily a battle of Lightfall generator. What I'm trying to get at, and I didn't really explain well enough, it's a desolate battlefield, battle runes, rusty yard generator.
Exactly, and that's cool.
That's what I mean. Because I think those should be all over different parts of the world in a certain region. Obviously.
Well, okay, but that actually brings up an important question that I think we have differing opinions on. Lightfall was just in Grin.
I think so. But like I said,
like,
okay, yes, but when Hitler wins, quote unquote, everyone around the world has to choose their allies. And if they're occupying.
Well, no, that's what I mean. They were all allied before. Whereas in this case, in my mind, the other places that are basically nearly impossible to get to in some cases would not be in the battle at all. They would certainly know about it.
And let me be clearer.
None of those places would have it.
This would just be for like Central Dragongrin.
That's what I'm saying.
Central,
I just wanted to be clear on that.
Grin, but like there'd probably be some forces here and there. Like
that's what I mean. Like exactly, and that's
just
what I
Central.
It's
not a world war. It's just Central Dragongrin. But here's the thing:
just wanted to be like I said. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page there.
To me, okay. So here's the thing: to me, Lightfall happened over about the course of a week. Really, I think, not just like a day. It's like, oh wow, okay. And then over the course of that week, it culminated in where Grin is now, and then through Sphere Below is where they're are coming out around, and all that happened. And there's a big band where all these different. It was a festival called Lollapalooza. It was this band of like this whole region, similar to like Gettysburg, and like if you look at like maps of where it's the front lines meeting, that whole area where it took place. That's to me, that's where like when you say Lightfall, it's like Lightfall happened, but this is where we lost.
Yeah.
So that whole area is then where they put the Dark Spires of Grin, that wall. That's basically like. So in my mind, it's like this: battle happens. They tricked him. They communicate. Boom. It's like what? Route them, and the Dismembered Lord orders like, no, you leave all of this here. Every bit of it. You don't clean up a body. You don't clean up everything. You leave them all here. And the wall is constructed. I don't know, whatever. But I think that place right outside.
Who do they get to pay for it, though?
I knew you were going to say. I was going to make the joke. And I thought, nah. People will get 3 hours into this stream and then thumbs down machine gun.
They can only do one, though. So
I know. All the counts. I guess what I'm saying.
I got you. No, that makes sense. Like
so
I said, I just wanted to be on the same page there.
Well, there's the Rust Yard right outside of Grin. So there's these walls, these super high walls. It's like Great Wall of Grinna. And then that whole stretch is called the Wailing Gray, where it's basically where black and light met, and it's this gray. And so I think that should be a Rust Yard where it's like you will see like garrisons, skeletons, famous heroes.
That's what the roll table is for that.
Right.
Okay.
Something like that. So not like everywhere, but like, hey, when you go to the
that's what I mean.
Grave,
I just wanted to be clear that like, hey, we're
what I had to kind of talk through it is that I think Lightfall happened. Grin, Sphere, like Forces of Innis marched through. Oh, here we go. And then they just got decimated all along that whole front and all these little. Well, that's the other thing is that to me, I think that creates this awesome, cool area of like Vlad the Impaler style where the Dismembered Lord left all that stuff. Is like,
yeah, that's what I mean. That's super
invade
cool.
me.
Again, I have no problem with that. I was more on the roll table.
Right.
Because I was just a little confused as to, that's fine. So, no, I got you.
So it's if you want to flesh out your history, your Lightfall, whatever. And then the Dismembered Lord, which we kind of started the whole stream with, which was, we talked about.
Yeah, everything about the Dismembered Lord, yeah.
But those would be all the wonders. So do you see any of those that need to be like legit cut?
No, but you mentioned the Dark Spires and other sort of important things.
That would be in Grin. That would be in the Grin section,
region.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is there a section in the template to be like, hey, this one particular place has a particular thing that we need to highlight?
Yes, and here's where I'll show you the region template.
No, you were supposed to tell me about the ashes of someone.
After the
regions, but I mean,
after the regions.
We're not going to talk about the regions. Not all
of them.
We
are. No. I just want to show you the template. We don't have to talk about the regions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just figured we could do that. Yeah. Okay, so
let's go over the region template. And Matt helped me kind of edit this thing down, but and we're still doing it. So, boom, the region name, then the one-line description. I think a quote from we're not going to say on the stream who the dead man is, but we both decided who that was, right? You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So
you remember he's the dead. Remember, he's the man.
He's the man dead.
No, I don't think
man deaded today. So then it goes into an overview, which would be like, Grin is Flaridadida. It is the safest region in the realm where evil has made its blah. It's a very short, like paragraphy. Regional details make this lean and mean.
And those are always going to be those.
Yes, this template is going to be the same, and we will shoot to keep the word counts the same. So we'll try for layout purposes so that they don't have to be symmetrical, but it would be nice. Well, if they're very close.
Basically, it would be great to not have one section, something beautiful, 7 paragraphs, where the other one is 2 sentences. No,
so to me, it's not symmetrical in this way. And this is where I think we're going to find that there's a lot of flexibility in how we write this. So after the regional details, which is the environment, the size, which we talked about this, calling it like 30 dregs from each class. Basically, a dreg is a unit of measure we made up of how long you can travel on a horse in a day. So this, something beautiful, something deadly, something sickening, something secret, is your linchpin stuff that you want to really highlight, but you're not locked in. You can choose anything deadly. So it's not like landmarks. Well, we don't have landmarks for everything.
No, I got you.
That are that big.
Exactly.
So in the regions, you get to pick what these are.
Yeah, exactly. You pick what you want to highlight.
So to me, I think, interestingly, I think it would be kind of cool if the Dark Spires of Grin were under something beautiful.
Yeah.
Just like it's a towering wall that runs from da-da-da-da, and just that much. It's lean. You get it. It's a big wall. Do with what you want, After that stuff, lore of the land. So it's like bullet points, not numbers, but bullet points of like, here are some nature checks for this region. Like, here are some insight checks.
Not tying yourself into, here are 4 flowers, here are 4 trees. You're like, well, listen, this place doesn't have flowers.
Right. But if I'm a DM and I've got this open and someone's like, hey, we want to find, and you're just like, this is really cool to be able to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. And you see, it doesn't have DCs. It doesn't have any of that. It's just, here are some things your players would know. Same thing with insight checks. Like, insight checks would be like, you can tell that every merchant in the region is in the pocket of.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
History checks, which these are fun, where it's like, boom. And then arcana checks. So your major checks, and it's just, what's it, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 6 each. I think that's pretty easy to write. And they don't all have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, yeah, it's something that's here.
Boom, here's, like magic in this region tends to.
We'll get into that as well.
Right. And that's where you can get super creative and do whatever you want. Magic in this region generally tends to look, green in appearance or whatever. Just don't step on the power strip timely. This, I think, is very, very basic. It's resources on a scale from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Whether it's nearly impossible to find or abundant, that gives you such a really good idea of whether it's survival or not. And it's as simple as a number.
Exactly.
And then you just put like water. You could be like name of lake, name of river, super, again, not symmetrical.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I'm looking at this as a game master and I go, all right, the resources, okay, the water is a 3. That means, okay, it's pretty easy to find water. Shelter is a 1 because we're in Jahar. So that means that I'm going to focus on this thematically. It's just giving you those ideas of like, without having to, because you know why? Most books put this in a paragraph and it's buried 3 columns deep.
And because there's not a structure, you can't think, I need to go see where people go on water. They're like, I remember they mentioned that water wasn't abundant here, but I don't remember. No, I get that. I think that's pretty good.
Right. And then goods and equipment, which is basically, can I go and get stuff? Right. Regional culture, language. So it's just like, they speak this and this, never use the word blah in a greeting, whatever. This could be, again, totally asymmetrical. Style and dress. Custom and traditions. This is, we'll probably draw from a lot of real world stuff here.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, making it's like 3 bullet points. Something that's fairly easy to just to give people an idea, because this gives you a real snapshot of the world instead of, again, the region of da-da-da-da is a mining town. They tend to dress da-da-da-da-da.
I got you.
I'm never going to read that. Festivals and holy days, just 3. Cool. Denizens, so prominent people, 3 or 4. Like, oh yeah, well, we want to find the ruler of blah. Who would that be? Bellic. You know, you can just pull stuff, right? Factions, super quick. Name a faction, quick background. Holy warriors who seek to restore relics. This is an atlas of inspiration. This is not learn about the factions.
This is where they. Yeah, no, I got you.
If they're in this region, most dungeon masters are going to change it anyway. This just gives them the tools to do it quickly and fluidly, I think. And then settlements, same thing. You know, hey, here's this general blah. Not necessarily layout or anything, but just like a small mining community, you know, held together by bridges over tar pits.
Yeah.
Right there. That's plenty. So like 6 of those. Now I put here, and this is what I was saying, use generator from region below. I'll go over that in a second. Inns, taverns, hostels. That's self-explanatory. Use generator from region below. Landmarks and locations of legend. That's just fun to be able to put in there. So you could also put the Dark Spires here.
Yeah.
But this is more for things that aren't big enough to be in the top 4, but are still like, oh, okay.
Yeah, or more specifically, something that's shown on the map. There are going to be things on the map, and it's like, hey, this is what that thing is.
Exactly. So it could be anything, and that's why it's not just dungeons. It's locations and landmarks. It could just be anything.
Things that if somebody says, hey, what's here? Like, oh, down the street is the thing.
Right. Travel in the region, which is super quick. Again, 3 quick ways. So it's like, hey, you know, things that would be specific. So if there's a river nearby, it's like, hey, most of the travel is done by river. Again, as a game master, just having this stuff laid out, it's like, oh, okay. Or like if it's the desert region, it's like, you know, camel caravan. Boom. All this little detail stuff, I've got it right in front of me. Travel challenge generator, quick D6 of like, there's a sandstorm. There's a, you know, pulling this straight from what we did in Stone Rift.
Yeah.
And then weather in the region, just a D4 of, you could do a D6, but I feel like you'd be mimicking a lot. But again.
Well, they're all going to be roughly the same, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So you make it specific to the region. So if it's like a sort of a Pacific Islander kind of thing, it's like you give that vibe.
Yeah.
Just 4 quick, again. Notes from a dead man. There, to me, I imagine this is like the one section of each one that's a lot more florid, written. This is lore, and this can be anywhere from like 200 words to I think up to like. I'd like for this to be on its own page.
Yeah. So what goes
in the middle? So this is notes from the dead man. So this is the to me in character them describing what they think about the region. So this is the place where you could do info dumps without doing it in gritty paragraphs or without doing the whole book in character. So if this was Volo's guide, this would be notes from Volo on the section.
Well,
you understand what I mean?
I do.
Because there's nowhere else
but
for section lore and flavor to live.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So that would be like, okay, here's the.
No, I understand. I guess what I basically.
Well,
do you think it belongs there, or do you think it belongs at the beginning?
The reason why I think it belongs there is because I would skip it every time if I was reading the book. But if it was in the middle, it breaks up the overall. Like, this is the hot sheet. Okay, now let me read and get into lore, and then after that is the threat conflict generator. That makes sense. Yeah. Now here's the thing: in layout, we could totally move that, and that's
what I mean. In my mind,
the start of each section could be like that. Makes sense
because
what you're saying
in
makes
my
sense.
mind, yeah, in my mind, I'd want to read the cool stuff and then see what the economy is. You know what I mean?
Totally. And maybe
I'd be like, okay, economy. This
maybe that starts each section.
I'm just throwing that out there.
No,
I feel like that makes more sense.
The reason why I put it here in the middle is just because it looked good in a Google Doc. It broke up my eye on a Google Doc. But what you're saying makes sense. It actually is cool. Really,
in my mind, that would be the cool part. Be like, that's if I'm looking at the sections, I'm reading that like, oh, okay, about Jahar. I'm like, oh no, that's not really what I'm looking for.
Right. And this is prose. This is not
exactly.
This is like
that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, this is super.
Yeah, like
lore heavy.
The bones of Catchpenny explorers litter the sands and like what? Really cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, so then let me put a note here that says put this.
Or consider putting it at the beginning. I mean, unless you're 100% in, but I'm like, just we'll talk about it.
Nothing is sacred. Consider putting this at the beginning of the section. All right, cool. So then after that, the next part is, this is the DM's dream. Regional threats and conflicts. So minor threats, growing threats, and major threats. So like a minor threat would be several of the guards in major cities are corrupt. It's like, okay, that's a level 1, level 2 thing, but it's a seed. And then like a growing threat would be like a crime lord is rising to power.
Yeah.
That's basic. Major threats would be, you know, a
crime lord is in power.
A crime lord is in power, and the next one would be like a civil war is on the brink.
Yeah, huge stuff.
To where it's like, whoa, but you kind of flavor it. So to me, that's really cool. Is it's like you can come in here and using this section, you could just run a sandbox.
Yeah,
right out of the book. Regional adversaries, foils, which to me are just more neutral. Like a foil is that guard that won't let you on the boat because you don't have paperwork.
Yeah.
It's not evil. It's just like, hey, listen. So these are foils that you can
people they might run into.
Right. Henchmen, hirelings, and thugs. So this would be like
henchmen, hirelings, and thugs. Like some of them, I mean, they're pretty obvious what they are.
Minor villains and then major villains. You'll notice it slowly gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't make sense to have 6 major.
There are 20 major villains.
Right, but there's like between 2 and 4 in each region, I think.
Yeah.
Dark and dangerous destinations. It's a D6 using that generator we looked at way before.
But these would be things that are on the map. I think they
probably, yeah.
I think basically, the names or whatever.
These are the 6, right?
Exactly.
These are the 6 things where it's like, yo, and
like, hey,
talking about Kickstarter status. I don't know if those would make it to the big map if we'd have room for all of them, but that'd be nice.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna have 6 of them, I mean, that's what I mean. In one region, you're like, yeah, there's like room for.
Then that's perfect. So the dark and dangerous destinations, that would be perfect. And it's basically a D6 of like, hey, here goes some different dungeons to throw the players in.
I wouldn't even.
Well, it doesn't have to be a dungeon. That's why I said destination.
And it's not a roll table in my mind.
Oh, it's not. It's just bullets.
Yes.
Yep. It's just bullets. Exactly. So it's like, hey, here go the dungeons. Then monstrosities of the region. Just a list of things that are commonly encountered.
Like monsters.
Right. So if you.
Don't be in the way.
Oh, me?
No, the way.
Oh, time. So to me, it's like, for instance, in this realm or in this region, it's as simple as you're running through and you're like, oh man, I need them to run into something right now. Okay, well, goblins, gnolls, and bugbears are here.
Yeah.
Monsters and creatures considered unique to this area. Oh, okay. The Titan Walker. That's the only place this is really encountered because it's from Deep Vault or something, or the Villanavi, whatever. So just a couple of those. Rumored relics and treasures. Dude, magic items. That people could, it's just a MacGuffin list.
Yeah.
And then D20 regional plot hooks, similar to how we did it in Stone Rift, where it's like, just look up here and all that stuff.
No, but wouldn't that use the generator? Isn't that the idea? Oh, no. Yeah. Wasn't one of the parts of that generator you showed me for regions?
That was for the dungeons. It says
no, there was dungeons.
The monsters were, we cut the NPC stuff.
I know, there was one. So there was the makeup of the dungeon, and then there was the plot hook of the dungeon.
It was the lore and the legend of the dungeon, yeah.
So that's going to be in there too.
That would be up here on the regional these. We generate them and then just fill in these.
So they wouldn't be plot hooks. They would just be about the dungeon.
No, the plot hooks would probably be just totally different. I said, we would just draw from all the stuff up here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I thought we had a generator for that too. I think I was mistaken. Okay. Yeah. So then D20 plot hooks.
And then the end of the section is called running this at your table. And it's just bulleting out sort of what you saw up there. So like,
it's the reference sheet.
It's the hot sheet if you're flipping through. It's like uses if you need a forested region, a place to have a tribe dwell, a lush green region, real world analogies, Eastern Europe. I put Pacific Islands just.
Well, they're just like for examples. You started reading it, and I'm like, you have not read any yet. They've all been placeholders so far.
Right. Other fiction that could take place here. Predator, film, blah, book, comic. So that you immediately have like, oh, okay, this is where that would live. Right?
Yeah.
Words and phrases of inspiration and imagery. We could cut this, but I love this kind of stuff where it's like sword in a stone, a well overgrown, regal knights adorned in plate. Like
that third one's in rhyme though.
No, dude. Regal Knights, cut to the bone.
Okay, but yeah. In my mind, I'm like, that's the whole section. You know what I mean? I'm like, that is just like
totally. So let me put consider cutting, because it could just be that thing that kills us in the end, where I'm like, I gotta come up with a bunch of words and writing.
Because basically, we would just be
it's extraneous.
Because we would just be taking stuff from up there and putting it down here. I'm like,
in a more generalized way.
Yeah, it would feel maybe a little redundant.
Let me actually. I'm going to suggest that we delete it. I'll just do that, and then bringing the regional details to life. This might be going a little too hard in the paint.
Yeah, that is new since we decided to keep what we had.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because you were like, should we decide like that was the template? And I'm like, yeah. Hopefully this means you won't add anything. And I'm like, that's smaller than I remember.
It is. So here's what it is that you basically, now the reason why this could be redundant is because these are sort of plot hooks. This might be too much.
Well, because it
says environment, a forest region, ways this can affect you and inform your game. Yeah, this needs to be cut.
Yeah, because I'm like,
size of it. Here's how the size can inform your game.
Because that is, in my mind, to some degree, you're not telling your programmer, hey, when they click on that, I need it to pop up. You're saying, hey, when they click on that, use JavaScript to make it pop up. Don't tell me how to do it.
Yeah, so
tell me what to do.
Let me delete this.
It's probably the worst analogy ever, but
no, that works.
The idea being that it's like, yeah, that's cool, but I think let's not tell them how to use it.
I agree. And so I'm actually going to do this too. I'm going to cut this. I think this is important though. 10 questions to make this region come to life is cool. You ask questions about the answers up top. So like, why has no one entered the Sanctum of Rudic in centuries?
Yeah, exactly. Like almost like
the world questions from Campaign Master for this region.
Like plot hooks, but like session hooks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
More like why this?
Exactly.
Why is this happening? It gets them going. And then the regional random generators, to me, as short as they are. Oh, no. These. So, okay. This would be a roll table. It's a D20
you just added that the other day.
No.
When you added that.
Within the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked in November. Like, yeah, okay, template's like done, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know what I expected.
That's fair. I know. This is, okay, here's the idea. We're always coming up with roll tables. Like I sleep roll table. This is a roll table specific to the region, and it can be anything. Okay, I'll give you an example. It can be something.
So make that top part more clear. Things you'll find in a market in a region is not what it can be then. Delete the gray text right there. Make that more clear about what it should be then.
Well, no, but that's the title of this one.
So those 20 are only things you find. Oh, scroll down a little bit. There are some, but they can be anything, but they're always going to be those?
No, so I'll give you an example. Okay, in a region like Uldane, it could be a D20 bleak mutations. It's just specific, something crazy that doesn't fit anywhere else. That's a roll table for the region.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just like,
but
hey, what crazy? No.
How many are there? One,
4?
There's one there. There's one there.
Oh, no, this is sites you may see in the region.
That's always going to be the same.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying all of these are, we're going to come
Sorry, no. Just
the top one.
Just this one.
Unique to the region.
Is a D20 of like, okay, so in Stone Rift, it could be the Rift repository, like, or no, the market would probably be the better one to use. Like things you'd find in the Dwarven market. That's the only place you're going to find that one. But I think that should be crazy and varied.
Can I ask you a question that you're not going to like?
Yeah.
20 though?
I guess it could be D10.
Just consider that this one, okay, things you can find in the market. That's cool. Bleak mutations. I think 20's pushing it there.
Yeah, and you start to be like, 2 fingers.
Do you see what I mean?
3 fingers. All right,
now we could also decide.
So let's make it a D20 or D10 rather.
I think that it should be because that gives us more room to say and really cool things instead of 20 kind of cool things.
Totally with you. So then let me cut these.
Because I'm like, I'm not trying to say this roll table should be shorter, but we all learned a lesson from 20 chapters in
the Copper Jackals. No, and I agree with that because then it's 10 really cool things. And like, okay, so a good one would be like in a more I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's in the like kind of Europe region. Oh, I can't remember what it's called right now. It's not Varnholm, but like, okay, that's actually a good one. So in Varnholm, where it's like Gaelic and all this other stuff, it would be like.
That's not what I remember that place being. Sorry, please continue.
What was Varnholm?
Varnholm was Shadowfell. No, what's that place called?
Leaf is ice, tundra.
No, Varnholm I thought was scary stuff. It's where vampires live.
It can be.
Where was that?
Sphere.
No, that was that was what Varnholm was.
Oh no! It wasn't going to be vampires. It was going to be like banshees and Gaelic lore. Like
see, no. You keep doing
the
one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look up I have an Excel spreadsheet with a map.
It's cool as long as we're on the same page.
I get you, but that's been I think you just are remembering that. Right?
I think so. That's okay.
I'll admit to when I change stuff all day. Varnholm, Scotland meets Ireland. This will be where fairies live with the trolls and the fae. Oh, hey, that's the Feywild thing.
No, that's where does the evil stuff live?
Are you talking about Bismore? Like Numenera continent?
I think a long time ago. I think I just forget. A long time ago, Varnholm was where. What's that other one? It's not Curse of Strahd. There's another famous.
That's where we said Sphere was. Is where all the evil lived.
I know, but that's what I mean. Maybe this. You know what? Like I said, I think it's just old information. That was before Sphere Above was a place people lived.
Oh, yep.
So yeah, I changed. I forgot.
But Sphere Above, I think, should still be awful. Like,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I was confused.
No.
So but again, that's why we need to always get on the same page.
I agree.
We sometimes have different ideas of what the last thing we talked about.
That's why this is important. So, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. So, like, in Uldane, it would be like bleak mutations. In Varnholm, Scotland meets Ireland, it would be like 10,
this is part of writing the book. I don't know.
No, I know. I'm trying to think of like, I don't want to say leprechaun, but I'm like fae, I don't want to say fairy tales of like lore and legend or I don't know, something.
Yeah. Okay.
Something specific to the region. So like in Jahar, it would be like.
You're trying to come up with them.
I know.
I think that's part of writing the book. I get it.
It is.
But
you get
I see what you're coming.
Okay. I'm kicking the dead horse in the face.
Yeah. And then sights you may see. And then trinkets. See, that's perfect for a D20 is like trinkets. I'm like, dude, that makes sense.
Right. All day. Now, sights you may see in this region. Do you feel like that's also kicking? Like we need to get rid of that? Because that would be like.
Well.
2 hard-nosed knights sit atop their horses making merry and laughing at a peasant who's fallen.
Yeah, I think that can give you some tone. I don't think it's super necessary.
If it's not super
based
necessary,
on how many other things we have.
Let's cut it. Yeah, cut it?
I don't think cut it. I think that we can consider it.
Do you feel okay?
Here's what I'm saying. Based on what you had there, this to me means things you would see. But when you write this, if it's all stuff like this,
it could be this. It could be 2 hard-nosed knights, or it could be like
I guess what
an overgrown well that hasn't seen water in 2 decades. It's a mixture of anything you can see.
I feel like it should stay if it's stuff like that.
It is anything you can see. And as a DM, what it's for is you're like, okay, hey, all right, I kick open, the door and I see the outside. What do I see? 2 hard-nosed knights sitting atop their horses, making merry and laughing at a peasant who's fallen.
And somehow that gives so much tone that I think it's worth it.
And you design those so that they're specific to the region.
Because, again, we're not doing, 10 of something else. I don't know.
Right. And then trinkets, like you said.
That's what I mean. 20, I get it. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of just making stuff up. But
so the city, town, and settlement generator, and then the tavern, inn, and hostel generator, I say generator very loosely. You just have to make sure that the naming conventions match the region. So it can't all be the prancing pony. That wouldn't make sense in
certain places.
Yes. And so very short. It could even be a D6 to where it's like, it's the size of the inn, the style, a unique identifier, and then name 1 and name 2. Maybe that's a little overreaching, but I'm saying very short. So if you need to generate
that's what I mean. How many?
D6 of each of these.
Yeah, that's fine.
So like, and here's the 6. So it's like small, medium, large. Maybe size should be.
Wait, actually, sorry. Here's the important thing. How many are above? How many? So you said use these to make the things that are up there.
Oh, yeah.
So scroll back up. How many are there?
6 each, I think.
Well, basically, it would just be across the way, right? That would just be literally each of those up there would just be the first one, the second one, and you can mix and match if you want.
Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Do you see what
Well,
I'm saying?
and
It
then
would
you
literally,
pull
if
that
there's
down
only
there.
6 on the...
So you're not, okay, so do it the opposite. Instead of using the generators to make the stuff atop, use the stuff atop to make the generators below.
That's not what I was saying, but yes.
Oh, okay.
I was saying, basically, if we do that, we're not going to write them and then roll on it. You know what I mean? Because then you have two that one of the names is the same, where you're like, but you have one name you didn't use.
Right.
So exactly. But actually, yeah.
In a perfect world, what I was suggesting is that the names we give the ones are not on the table, but everything
would work.
See what I'm saying? So it's like
sort of, but I'm like,
it's the same concept.
I'm like, that's kind of against the idea.
Well, because
I don't know. Okay, no, I guess it makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? Okay, maybe forget the idea that I said that we need to use the generator to make the ones above. I don't know why I thought that was a cool idea.
Are the ones above off limits for the generator? Because then you're coming up with 12 styles. You see what I mean? I'm like, there's just a few things to consider there.
I think that they aren't off limits to the generator.
But that they can have names that aren't. Okay.
The names are because these are the named things.
Make a note of that.
Okay, so how do I say that?
Basically,
I'll remember that.
What?
I'll remember that. I promise you, I'll be like, okay, I'm pretty crazy when it comes to that. So
but you're sitting in front of a computer with an input device that allows you to put words in.
So what?
For no cost at all.
No, where you lost me is when you said, put in all of that. I'm like, I'm not writing all that.
No, I said make a note of that. Just like say, hey.
Do not replicate names above on this table.
Because even a note to remind you that there's something about that to remember puts me more at ease.
Sure. And that's where, so like town and city settlement generator, so that people are like.
You could still come up with a brand new one that's not, we were at the Prancing Pony last week.
Well, that's even the town. I'm saying tavern.
Yeah.
But those are the main things. You're like, hey, we want to go to a nearby town. Oh, God.
All right, well,
you're in a pinch. But if you got this book, you're like, okay, great. Boom.
If you wanted to come up with one, but you can also just go to that section and say, well, no, here's one that's on the map in this region.
Yep. And it's like made for, it's like they are specific kinds of farmers. They deal in, such and such dyes, or their exports, or something.
In my mind,
bullety, like unique identifier.
Okay. So in my mind,
or something,
you should change the thing above that says use generator to instead say you make sure you mention size, style, unique identifier.
Okay.
So that like the idea being we are making them all the same format,
right?
But the ones above will be the ones that are there. And there might be a little more to them because it's a named place on the map.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense.
So rather than saying, hey, use the generator, there are just also generators if you don't want one below there.
Gotcha. So instead of this.
So you can say, use format, the generator spits out below or something. Just the idea that we would never not mention the size if the size is in the generator so that you could have the same ones.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because these might have an extra 2 sentences because they're like, no, this is where X happens. Right. But if you're coming up with a random one, whether in Dragongrin or somewhere else.
That makes sense. It's not going to have all the little details.
Exactly. But
from
you can still come up with one because you should use one from the region if they want a fleshed out tavern.
And I was going to say, we should probably just I'll erase that altogether. The line. It makes sense. Like,
just erase the line. That's what I mean. I'm like, that kind of. Yeah.
These are the settlements. Like, these are the inns, taverns, and hostels. It's pretty clear what an inn, tavern, and hostel generator is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, yeah, for sure.
So, all right, cool.
No, you messed up. Just hit X and then delete one more.
Okay. All right. So this would be the generator. Like there would be no more additions to this. If anything, we would take stuff off as we wrote, and we're like, that's redundant also.
What do you mean? What?
I said generator.
Format.
This would be the template for every region.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the template for each region.
Was there anything else at the bottom? No, that was it.
Oh, non-player characters you may encounter in this region. I think it's important to have at least a D6 of like names.
Well, but that's the thing. Those can just be them. You know what I mean? 6.
It doesn't have to be a generator. It's a list.
That's what I mean. It's just a list of 6. That's fine.
Yeah. So
I'm like, I'm down.
In fact,
you can do what you did above, which is race, clothes, or race, social stuff. I don't know. Come up with 4 things.
Yeah, no. I've got a little
race,
NPC
something, unique identifier, name. These are not cells. These are not columns. That's just the things you have to say about them.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's the format. It's Jonathan Smith, tiefling, missing one horn.
Yeah.
Kind of a bad guy. I don't know. Whatever.
No, it makes sense. And again, this is just about the concept. We'll polish that up. Something, right? Something like that. So, all right. And then that's in each of the regions. So then at the end, it's like, hey, here goes the, well, wait. Because it's not a generator, should that go up here in the...
Aren't there NPCs up there anyway?
Were there? Oh, you know what it was? Yeah, it was denizens of the region.
So just scratch the NPCs? No,
because prominent people would be like, everybody knows these people. These are the people of the region. This is Governor.
Do you want to
Governor Horrible Dracula? Right under here, we'd put NPCs. Take it from the bottom, since it's not a roll table.
Exactly. It's just a list. But I would probably put it after factions.
Okay.
Because like factions are bigger, you know, I'm kind of going top down.
That works for me.
Sort of, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I can do that. That way you're ending with your city and here.
Yeah, because these are like literally, hey, I talked to the guy on the street.
Mm-hmm.
He's this guy.
So after factions?
I think so.
Okay. I'll just leave the formatting.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's not
heading to. All right. So then, I was going to say 6
bullet points under that, or however many you want.
Oh yeah,
just because that's how everything else.
I say about 6.
Oh, scroll down a little. Yeah, there you go. We found
it. So we'll do just. That works for me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I keep going to save it. No, not in there. There was one other thing I was going to do. Oh, it's super pointless. But talking about top down, tavern and inn would go above city and town.
Well, no, not if you're top down. If you're
Sorry, down. We're doing top down, so leave it.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, yeah.
Doesn't that be backwards? Like, hey, tavern or an inn. Oh, here's if you need a city.
It depends on which way you want to go. It could literally go either way.
It so doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It matters now. But you know, when you're reading a book, you're not like,
yeah.
Well, hey, they flipped them.
Yeah.
No. So this is the template.
Like really? Like blood oath?
Yeah, blood oath. And if no, like I said, if anything else, Pinky swear on Karen. If anything else, it'll get less than this. As we write it, it might be like, hey, this is extraneous.
Yeah, exactly. We'll find it. Okay.
The good news is though, is that if we keep it to roughly this, which I'm going to really try to do, and you will too.
I'll try my best.
I know. Is that it's a long template, but it's super segmented. It's very sectional.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, I will say, how many pages is that?
The template is like 15. No, I lied to you. 13. Well, but here's the thing.
No. Don't. Here's the thing.
Okay, how many here's why.
No. I understand why.
No. This is not going to be the same as a normal.
How many regions are there?
I get where you're getting at.
I just want to figure it out.
All right.
I want to throw out a number.
All right. So if we make Aquianus its own region, 1, 2.
Okay. Here's the thing. Even half, because some of those, you know what I mean, in 2 columns. Usually in a doc, it's 2. But I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's still 13 pages. I know. Here's what I'm saying. Cut it in half is what I'm saying.
Okay, that's
Each
fair.
page
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Is half a page.
So say 6 pages.
Exactly. Times 16. What are you looking at there?
I don't know.
You're the worst. Type in calculator. 22 pages each.
Wait, no, what? 22 pages total. No, you're right. Okay, I see what you're getting at now. Okay. No, that's about right, though. That means 100 pages of the book would be the regions, the meat. That's about right, right?
Well, yeah, I just want, for the record, to mention that one time, and maybe this was our bad. These were each going to be a spread. We had a template once that was 4 pages in a doc.
I know. Oh, buddy, I remember. This is so much more useful, though.
I agree completely. I agree completely.
So let me ask you this. Is it about then cutting the amount of information we need to write, or are you saying pages for layout?
No, pages for layout. I was just curious.
Because I know you're just getting the state of the
getting
union.
the ballpark of like, hey, this book is going to be 200 pages at least.
Easy. But the thing is that, for instance, like this resources thing could be, if you lay it out right, not right, but if you choose to do it this way, this resources is always a long, thin breakout box at the bottom that's laid out a certain way to only take up this much resources.
Well,
like the things you can do that with,
yes,
you make them live.
But the important thing to note is no matter what, whether horizontally or vertically, roughly is going to take up the same amount.
Sure. And I get what you're saying is
so I'm not saying that's a lot or that's too many. I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
Because this used to be 4 pages.
Right. Now here's the other thing. We can consider cutting some of these regions.
And we can talk about that. I feel like going through the regions will happen eventually.
Sure. I think that's what we need to do, like, for the next...
Like, regions is the bulk of the book.
Right.
The rest of the stuff we kind of have a handle on. Regions is where we're like, nah, I'm not sure.
Nah.
We are sort of finished up, so I don't want to spend too much time on it.
No, I think
go to the regions.
Yeah.
Go to the map, your map doc.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, here's the most recent one.
No, but the doc, I like the doc. Well, I guess, but I'm saying,
just don't look at that.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's fine. I guess that's what I mean. Is this is all of them, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's a lot of them. Okay. Again, not saying that anything should be changed, but
but I want to change this.
No, I feel like, I don't know. It's a lot. This is a big place.
I know.
Bigger to me, than any other place.
I want it to be one and done. I want it to be like we write this book and then we can just write splat books that follow it that drill deep if we want to.
Don't kid yourself.
I know. But
I know.
I really do kind of want to be like, hey, here's the zoomed out World Bible State of the Union. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that it's never like, hey, Tim, I want to run this. Where would I do it? And it's like, well, I don't know. Let me message you.
And no, I get that. So I'm looking here at a map of Eberron. You see this, right?
I do see that. That's about, that's the size of Dragongrin, right?
That is the size of Central Dragongrin, yeah.
No.
No.
Okay, I was like, no. That's the size, like this and this.
Yeah.
No, I think we need to go for that size. Just make things closer together.
So actually, here's a really, really interesting, important thing. We did this weird sort of
backwards.
No, not backwards, but I would say
backwards.
What's one adolescent? We did sort of an adolescent thing and made everything
biome,
an island, sort of a biome, but an island. Like, what if we literally just took like 4 of those things and we're like, it would obviously change the biome. And
it's fine.
We were okay with that. But what if we were like, hey, on this other continent is these 4 things, so that there's a little more conflict? Because otherwise, and we talked about this a little bit.
I love it.
Instead of it being like, well, those guys have their own island, so they're happy, and these guys have their own island, so they're happy. And you know what I mean? I'm like, we didn't really consider it. Some of them will be like, Talus is going to be floating in the air. That's fine.
Sure.
But I'm like, what if you took like 4 of those and like, bam, and then the northern portion is Leith, where it's so cold.
Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about this then. Then immediately, I would say we'd probably jam these 2 together.
Yep. That's like Island Chain would be a Y and a Razios. Like, just those are connected relatively, but they're split up politically.
Yep. And then Varnholm and Islay.
You're not allowed to do that. You came up with it.
Islay.
It's not Islay?
No.
Because Islay is a real place in a real world.
Yeah, it is.
You want to just call something Europe, or?
Can we do that legally?
Yeah, actually.
Guys, like,
is Europe copyrighted? Who owns the rights to Europe?
I don't know. I think Prince Harry. So, okay. All right. No, but all right. So what do we, okay. I got to change the name of this then. Isildur.
Here's the thing. That's the last one you added.
No, it isn't. No, maybe it's the last one I changed the name of.
What's the last one you added? That's the last one you added.
No, Aquianus is followed by Mogdrak until these are
okay, but Mogdrak is a portion of another region, so
right?
I don't count
so it's
that.
Not okay. So
Uldane,
okay,
you're right because you added Uldane later.
Yep, this is the order I added them in. I made these one at a time.
Okay, yeah. So Uldane and then wait, Talus?
That's the flying tree.
No, I know. I thought we came up with that before.
Well, we didn't have a name for it. We were just like, oh, no,
yeah, you have the wrong name of the place here. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, but no, it doesn't matter. It's not important.
Okay. So here's what I'm saying. Okay, put it this way. This is nearly island.
Like you said, we could just change the name.
We'll have to.
That's
So,
how you go.
oh God, maybe. Anyway, so this is like almost steampunk Europe. Not literally, but it's the most technologically advanced portion. It's the most settled region of the world. Like it's where you'd find artificers and things like that and cobbled streets and things. That can be hooked to Varnholm, which is more that like hook them together. Like actual
That's what
Europe.
I mean.
I'm saying your idea out loud, like yes.
So we'll drag that up and just touch them. What is that?
What? That's a note. That's a note. I can
get out of here.
No,
get
no.
your butt out of
Nate
here.
Nate was doing the mapping and he put it was that Bhutanese mountain.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's just a note I made.
Dad, you can leave the note.
No, I already put it in the doc.
Okay. So, what if now you have Leaf huge there? Are you talking like it cells on an Excel doc? I know that people can't see.
This is to scale.
Scale. Here's the thing. What if Leaf is northern Varnholm Islay?
Okay,
Do you have
that's
something
the thing.
against that?
Well, it's supposed to be a tundra. That's always been my trouble. Is I don't know how maps.
Well, yeah. So I'm like, well,
that's why that should
think about where Ireland is and where Iceland is, or Greenland rather. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's super cold, but I'm like, it's there. It's a delicate balance of how cold it is now. Well, Dane's not cold, but we're kind of making up reasons why it's cold. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah, I'm down with that. So here's my question though. This is the sticky part. Oh,
you did that wrong.
I sure did. Sticky part to me. Good grief. Is that
just for like a moment here forgot how to use Excel? No, you have it
not
selected.
Excel.
There we go.
It is Excel. It is Excel. Okay. Do we name those land masses? No.
Yeah.
No. I don't want to come up with all new names for land masses.
That's not up to you. Like, what do you call them?
That's just where. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to come up with like, here's the United Kingdom.
I know, but
that's a whole nother level of stuff. I don't want people to have to learn, and I don't want people to have to write and come up with.
Okay, but here's the thing.
No, I said
it doesn't matter. What are the two continents of Aranon?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. But they're on the map because that's what goes on maps.
Okay.
You don't even have to think about it beyond that.
Okay, that's.
But I think that it is very important because just consider what else that means. You can call it, Tim, if you want. You know what? If you want
Eastern Dragongrin,
I'm fine with that. It can all be that. Southern Dragongrin is Jahar and Zaman. Fine. You know what I mean?
Okay,
that's fine. I'll name them when you're not looking. It's not important.
It's fine. We did this during the mapping. Do you still want to split that? Whereas the jungle in the middle? I think that's cool.
We can. I think
here's the reason why it doesn't work. I make a region. It's Jahar. What do? How do I denote that in the region template? That's upper and lower.
You don't. It's all Jahar.
But that's what I'm saying is they're definitely separate regions in this. That's a no-no. This is a cool idea.
They're just physically separated.
What is the difference?
Okay, Zaman is more like the Sahara.
Right, and we flipped it to where it's like, hey, there's a jungle.
So the idea
in
is there's a jungle in the middle of the desert, and I guess what I mean is, would Zaman get its own? People don't live there, isn't it? Just a sea of trees where like nobody goes.
Yeah, but that's its own. Yeah, you got to put the dinosaurs in there.
Who are the prominent people? T-Rexosaurus?
No, dude, you got to have cool tribal. Like you got to make a whole situation. Your forest.
I love that you just made that bigger, like it mattered.
Oh, you know why? Because I had a plan.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm not saying no to you saying because a forest in the I don't know what we talked about then, but a forest in the middle of the desert doesn't make sense. I think that we
we were saying that we were saying it was like magical jungle in the middle that like sprouted up from like a dead primordial or something.
Oh, all right.
Like,
but again, okay, but we just.
I think it sounded really cool at the time, but it is not worth the squeeze. Is not worth the juice. It's confusing. There's no benefit of upper and lower Jahar.
Or again,
there's already sphere and sphere below.
Again. If you just make it Jahar, and what you're doing now, basically, Zamana is just in the middle. It's a lot smaller.
Which is kind of what I was
on
really
this
going
Excel
for.
map we just made. Like we're looking at this like somebody drew it. It's not important. It's just in the middle there. You know what I mean? All of Jahar, anywhere in Jahar, you can find all this stuff.
Right.
And then Zamana's in the middle.
That's what I was thinking.
So that's fine. We'll just know that.
Okay. And now it's all different color sands.
Yeah, I can tell. So, Kyojin is going to be its own thing.
Yeah, that kind of has to be.
That makes sense. I think that makes sense. Talus and Aquianus also make sense. Bismore and the Forlorn Fathoms. Is the Forlorn Fathoms even on that other list?
It's not a region. It's like a bleaky Bermuda Triangle of water. It's just it's a water thing. It's not.
Oh, it's not island or something.
It's like a crazy part of the water.
It's like
I don't know, where would that go? We have nothing in this book about the oceans.
Because there aren't, basically. It's the bleak. That would go on the bleak section.
Well, I think though we should probably put,
because there is water.
But there is water. So I think, okay, so hold on. In the that would be traveling in Dragongrin.
Probably. We'll find a place for it.
Basically, I think it should be a normal thing. Like this ocean, that ocean. It should still be called oceans.
But you don't want to name the oceans.
Well, do you remember the idea that I had for that? And I'll do it very quickly. To keep it super simple, and it's a little meta.
You don't have to find it.
Okay, I can't remember. It's call it the fractured ocean, or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you refer to the ocean, it's the northern shards.
Oh yeah,
the eastern shards, the
cool.
southern shards. So that basically you point anywhere in the world, and it's
that. Yeah, no, I got you.
I guess we're done then. So we need to just figure out combining these more. So we're one step further from a map. Unfortunately, but one step closer to a better
sort of, not really. Basically, this is one step closer to making the map. We just have to decide what the shape is.
Right, and figure out, are we going to go, and this will be the final question, are we going to go with a close to climate realistic map? Meaning, we pick a pole, whatever direction it's in. I think what we ended up saying is that the pole was going to be east. Did I make that up?
No, I remember having that conversation, but basically,
like, we'll make it to the ice.
I thought we decided.
Way,
no,
bro.
I thought we decided that instead of cold, equator hot, cold,
it was going to be cold,
hot.
Equator hot. But then
no equator. That's what I mean. We're not saying where the equator is.
Just cold.
The top is
hot.
cold and the bottom is hot.
See, now, which was fine, but that would make that, to me, that means that Leith needs to live up north.
Because if you think about it, yeah. Because Uldane may very well not be where it is now. Remember, we just talked about that. It's throwing you because selecting that color, I think, doesn't show up well.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So, but move it all up.
I will.
But that's way too. It doesn't matter.
Okay, but my point
those
is,
are still things in my mind are still all touching. Leith is north. Those things are relatively cold, but that thing, you know what I mean? Maybe.
So
I mean, they don't have to be. That can be its own section. But I want as few regions as possible. Basically, what I'm saying is that would be physically touching Leith.
I see. That's fair.
Because remember, Uldane might be moving.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I think we need to do is find a central landmass that we like, and then draw borders.
What do you mean?
I mean, like right now, we talked about this. Our map is so. We drew this symmetrically. Like, okay, these and then this on the top and this on the bottom. I think we need to.
Excel.
Hey.
I don't know.
What I'm saying is, I think we need to just say.
We need to come up, like you said, come up with a.
I almost feel like we need to just come up with a landmass. Totally, just be like, forget all of this. Just come up with a landmass that looks really cool, and then find places for all this stuff to live.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you need to make an island, you make an island.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But everything else is like, no, this goes here. I wish there was a book or something we could use.
Like to make a map like that
would be like, if I could master this, if I could create a campaign.
If I could be a better
I just want to get
game master. Okay, end stream.
All right, the stream is over.
Done.
All right, guys. It's been fun for us.
It's something that I hope nobody literally sat here and watched, because that's ridiculous.
Well, it's not live.
I know, but I'm saying eventually, if they get to this point.
All right, so secret code. If you get to the end of this, just like last time, you have to put the words Vash the Stampede in the comments. And then we'll know that you're a secret Taptarian.
We'll know. You skip to the end.
We skip to the end. Anyway, thanks, guys. You're going to see more of these. Whether you like it or not, this is what we have to do to work through our world building guide. We do love you. And subscribe. If you are here after this long, you're a trooper. You like our channel more than we do. Anyway, thanks so much, and we'll talk to everybody later. Until next time, may your dice roll high.